Dr Eric Goodman.
Thank you so much for letting me join you.
Chase Sexton. When he's in a standing position, his kneecap is never in front of the front arch of his foot. That's foundation training.
My style really changed. I started doing foundation training.
They did foundation training every day for like 10 minutes. But that 10 to 15 minutes a day kept us the least injured team by far. I say, let me teach you something that you can use and develop the skill of that will help you get out of pain. Whatever. Whoever does physical adjusting of the body can do a really nice job of helping to align your spine, your hips, your ankles, your wrists. You have to have the strength to stabilize it. It's on you. We have these systems in us that need to be worked. And if you're just kind of sitting around and not using your body, you are missing out on huge enjoyments of life by simply exercising and healing and helping systems. There are significant and tremendous performance benefits to foundation training.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by AG1. I want to give a big personal thank you for their help in getting me to the start line at Glen Helen for the World Vets. It was a real bucket list thing for me, and I spent all of 2023 training for it. I may have skipped a couple of runs and had a few off days at the track, but one thing I didn't skip all year was a morning started with AG1. Consistency is everything in health and fitness, and one scoop of AG1 with water first thing in the morning, every morning, played a massive role in getting me on the start line. I feel more energized, I have better digestion, and I have a higher sense of general well-being as a result. That's because every scoop includes things such as B vitamins for energy support, probiotics for gut support, and vitamin C and zinc for immune support. And while all of these attributes make AG1 a real no-brainer, you can try it and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/gypsytales and keep an eye out for our World Vets content dropping here on our YouTube channel soon.
I met a gypsy.
Dr. Eric Goodman is joining me on my most organized podcast of all time. We've had this booked in for months. It feels very good that you're finally here. I've been looking forward to it the entire time as well. Got a bit of a brief history with foundation training, and I'm excited to maybe introduce a few of the audience to it that might not know, and just dive a little bit deeper into it. So
Yeah, I thank you. Thank you so much for letting me join you. This is totally outside of the normal world of foundation training, except the athletes that do it. So yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, so the first time I ever heard about foundation training was actually on the podcast with Chase Sexton. So I'll tell you like how I kind of got it out of him, because I don't even think he like really wanted to say, oh, I do foundation training, you know. But basically there was this video that came out of him on his bike, and it just blew my mind. I was like, this is the best I've ever seen a person ride a motorcycle in my life, in terms of just like the technicality of like what he was doing on the motorcycle, body positioning, strength, like how solid he was. Like it just looked different to me. And I was like, holy fuck. And it was the first time that anyone had posted a video of him on a 450. So you make the jump from the 250cc motorcycle to the 450cc motorcycle. And normally, because you're young and it's a much bigger, faster machine, there's like this process of like adapting to the motorcycle. And he looked better on the bigger motorcycle than he did on the smaller motorcycle.
Wow.
And it was one of the first times where I'd ever just seen that straight away, and I was just completely blown away. So I watched it over and over and over and over, and I came up with this one heuristic, and it's basically that when he's in a standing position, like an attack position, his kneecap is never in front of the front arch of his foot.
Makes sense.
That's foundation training.
That's
basically.
Well, it's a very healthy hip hinge that is not just trained in the gym. It's trained well enough to become part of you, and it's not just done. I'm going to take these off. This is actually.
Yeah.
Sorry for anybody watching for the back and forth, but so much better. So a very healthy hip hinge will stabilize you.
Yeah.
It will make sure that your pelvis is sort of guiding your spine no matter what you're doing. So with somebody like Chase or anybody that rides or anybody that surfs or anybody that anything, if you practice foundation training enough, it becomes your pattern.
Yeah.
And that's all that happened.
Yeah.
It just became his pattern.
Yeah.
That's all.
But so there's a very, like, so that biomechanics of basically the hip hinge that's created when you have your knee behind like that front arch of your foot, basically, right? That torques your feet. So the feet become like very planted. Like there's so much pressure that goes through the feet. And then all that weight is transferred to the back of the motorcycle, which keeps the rear end of the motorcycle very, very planted and stable. You're almost like driving the rear wheel into the ground. And then that hip hinge, to get into the position for the handlebars, you're like flattening out and you're bringing your head over the chin pad of the motorcycle. I just would see that movement that he was making, and it's like the movement that's in that original video that I watched, like the 12-minute video. It's like it's basically just training best case body positioning on the motorcycle, and it's like, or without that, in like a normal posture, like your center of gravity is so much higher.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which means your weight, you know, you've got this bike that has its own center of gravity, and then you've got this person that's kind of swaying on the top of it, you know? So it's like, as you start to bring those things closer together, everything gets more compliant, more stable. And it just blew my mind. And it's like, I watched the video and I could see what he was doing. And then once I went straight on YouTube and I watched the 12-minute video, and I was like, holy shit. This is literally like the position. And it carries over to jiu-jitsu, and like there's so many ways that it carries over. But so that was my introduction. And then I spent some time hanging out with Jack and Freestone, and then he's up in the morning and he's doing his train. And I was like, oh, you're doing the same thing. So it all kind of come together. Okay. And I was like, we just need to get you on the podcast so we can learn a little bit more.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate that very much. Our work has grown by word of mouth. Yeah. Just by word of mouth. It's wonderful. I've been doing this for 15 years. A lot of people don't realize that foundation training is, you know, been around for a while. That 12-minute video or whatever, 12, 13-minute video, I think it's 12-minute video. It's been around since 2011. I put that up.
That's insane.
And I actually put a new one out just because a year ago that people enjoy a lot, and it shows the differences. It shows the adaptations and evolution of foundation training. But to talk about that position, because that position is called a basic hip hinge, but the way we do it is very different, and we call our movement a founder. Yeah. It's just because it's called foundation training and we needed a name, so we called it a founder. It's that easy. But that movement integrates the posterior chain of muscles. What that means is it takes the heels, the calf muscles, the deep muscles below those, the butt muscles, the hamstring muscles on the back of the leg. It connects those as a unit working together with the back muscles of the lats, the mid back, the lower back, the neck, the skull. It's this amazing line of musculature, posterior chain. So what my work did, what foundation training did in the rehabilitation community or in the pain relief community, is it taught the importance of connecting the posterior chain, but much more significant than that is it put the center of the pelvis, called the pubic symphysis, at the center of the body. It's center of gravity, but the core, changing the idea of the core from the abdomen and its contractibility and its stability to below it at the pelvic structure. That's the game changer. That's the thing that is hard to understand until you understand it. And then the moment you understand it, it's impossible not to understand. It's impossible not to look at the body that way. And in my own pain issues, I had to do that position over and over and over again. And it started to kind of blend and bleed into other positions that were hip hinge based, but positionally done with internal rotation of the feet. Something that I have to give a wonderful bit of credit to, because this is going to go to people that don't know the story of foundation training. Maybe they haven't been there for the 15 years I've been teaching it. But I've had people help me along the way. I developed the work of foundation training, the basic principles, the 15 or 16 first poses that foundation training was. What you see on the 12-minute videos, what you see in the first, 5 to 10 years of foundation training. And then I developed all of the other pieces, but it was because I was working with people that helped me see things.
Yeah.
And in the one that we're talking about, the internal rotation of the femurs, not just squeezing the legs together, but deliberately turning them in like you're a monkey grabbing a branch, having all the knuckles of the toes aligned to grab the branch. My buddy Brian King, I call him my buddy, but we don't even talk anymore, but he was instrumental in very important moments in foundation training. And I appreciate him very much. He's always, he's still a part of the business, but he's doing his thing wherever he's doing it. We haven't done much with him in quite a long time, but those pieces are very important. And Peter Park, the reason anybody in motocross before the 12-minute video was starting to get passed along, it wasn't getting passed along because of me. Yeah, I taught it, but there's a guy in there on the right, or one of the sides of the screens, the older guy in there, Peter Park, who I met Peter in 2009, and I actually had the opportunity to share and foundation training him in the form of kind of like training him with it a little bit. Like, let me show you what this does. Yeah. You're like literally one of the best coaches in the world, which he is. One of the most successful triathletes, which he was. One of the best endurance athletes ever, which he still remains. But he had never tried this stuff, this posterior chain integration. This is 2009, so I was very new at it too. I started developing the work in 2007, so this is very fresh and early. But I started training with him, and he loved it. We actually worked together to write the first book called Foundation, which came out in 2011. And Peter was Lance Armstrong's strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, right.
So Lance, being a well-connected human being, and this is, by the way, this is pre-bullshit. This is way before he told anybody that he lied about that stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, the only bad reviews I've had on the Foundation book are that.
People
Lance
say,
Armstrong wrote the forward. Fuck that guy. I'm like, why? He's actually, he's been very cool to us. He's been very cool to us. I appreciate it. I actually made that 12-minute video that everybody loves for him and a gentleman named Doug Ullman, who was the CEO at that time of Livestrong organization.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. Lance, Doug, thank you. Still, 13 years later, thank you.
Yeah.
But it was Peter's connection to Lance that started to draw a lot of other cyclists. And Peter's history in mountain biking and cycling, he's world-renowned, absolutely world-renowned. But Chad Reed came into the picture.
Yeah, okay.
And this was, when did we meet Chad? 2009? Right away. Maybe 2010, maybe like at the latest.
So he kept this very well secret.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, at least for a few years.
Yeah.
Because we trained with Chad a lot for a long time.
Huh.
Yeah. I don't know what's secret. I don't know much about motocross, supercross. I've been studying up since getting to know I was going to be doing the interview with you. I still don't know much about motocross or supercross.
Yeah.
Feels like you got to get on a bike and ride to really understand it. But it was those connections. So it was Peter Park, Lance Armstrong, Chad Reed. All of the sudden, very early, the motocross community started noticing the benefit of foundation training, and particularly this both dynamic and isometric at times. Sometimes you're moving, sometimes you're holding.
Yeah.
Hip hinge with other pieces, with this breathing element and this postural element and these counterbalance movements that are a piece of it. If you do that, you get better. It's really wild what happens. And now, I've gotten to witness it now since 2007. So I'm very confident in making that statement. If you do this work, you'll very likely get much better at the thing you do.
Yeah.
And we've had world champions in numerous sports, Olympians in numerous sports. My first ever job, actually before I was even out of chiropractic school, was 2007 into 2008, the United States Olympic water polo men's national team. Training them and being their chiropractor. I wasn't even out of school yet, but Dr. Terry Schroeder, the most amazing man in history, in my opinion, was the head coach of the U.S. water polo team. He was also a chiropractor. He saw Saw something in me. It gave me an amazing opportunity. And I actually got to do my last year of chiropractic school. Instead of being in clinic, I was the strength coach and doctor under Terry's license for the Olympic water polo team. And I got to travel with them. I got to work with, 6 days a week at the pool, writing every single workout they did outside of the pool, which obviously the coaches did. But I got to train these guys, and I got to put my thing that I was doing for my back pain, which was obviously making me stronger. I got to put it to the test, and I happened to be a water polo player. I happened to have the injury that these guys had from treading water over and over. They had been doing it longer and better, but I had played enough at a high enough level that I knew what it was, and I could even jump in the pool and play with these guys. So my work really helped them. And it was in seeing what it did for water polo. And not just, I have a dozen, 15, 20 testimonials from that team over, now they're 15 years old, whatever. Foundation training, which it wasn't even called yet. What Dr. Goodman did for our team was he made us the strongest team in the water and pain-free.
Yeah.
Now, did all they do? They didn't only do foundation training. That's not how that works. That's not true. They did foundation training every day. It wasn't as good as I teach it now, but they did it every day for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then we got into weights work, plyometric work, high intensity training. We got into land work sometimes. We got into all that stuff. But that 10 to 15 minutes a day kept us the least injured team by far. And when they played the superpowers, when we met, they were 9th in the world going into the 2008 Beijing Games, and they got a silver medal, upsetting giants. And I say that like physical water polo giants, some of the biggest, scariest looking people you ever seen. Big Croatians and Serbians and Hungarians, like, they're big people, and they're strong, and they're good. And I get so excited talking about that because it was an absolute highlight of my career that happened to happen early. Yeah. And it
gave you like a good understanding of like the potential of what you're on, right? Like it would have been so fresh as like a concept. You were still in, university essentially. Yeah. So it's like to have almost like a proof of concept to like give you the confidence to, because it takes like a lifetime to dedicate to something like this, you know?
As you say that, you actually remind me of a moment that was one of the scariest for me. I was really insecure. Even talking to you before coming, like I have to get over some insecurities when I talk to people and do things sometimes. And Terry Schroeder, greatest guy ever, offered me a job as a chiropractor working in his office, very successful office near Malibu. Yeah. I mean, stars, everybody comes there. And he's from one of the biggest chiropractic family in history. He's got 60 or 70 directly blood-related chiropractors. And his great-great-grandfather or whatever it was actually friendly and part of kind of like the original crew. Now, here's the thing. I have an education as a chiropractor. I've never practiced chiropractic in my whole life. I got my degree, I got my doctorate, but I was already deep into foundation training because of the water polo team. Yeah. When I saw what was happening with them and I witnessed it and I heard their stories, we were the same age. I was 26. They were 22 to 29 to 30 to 35. Yeah. So I was right in the middle of the team. And it gave me 2 lessons that I've never, ever changed. I thought I had a work ethic. I had no work ethic. I saw what work ethic was. And from that day forward, from that time, that year that I spent with them
just
forward,
got it by osmosis.
It was like they changed out my gas tank. And they gave me like the new upgraded efficient engine.
They probably gave you a new firmware.
They did. They completely did.
A full software update of like, this is what's possible. I fully get what you're saying.
And I honestly really credit Dr. Terry Schroeder with that. I saw the most peaceful, intelligent, badass human being, head coach of an Olympic team of big, strong, egotistical, bastard men.
Big alpha dudes.
I don't know why I just said bastard. Big men. Yeah. Just like really strong. Well, kind of bastard. A couple of them were pricks. But he handled it like a symphony.
Yeah.
Never yelled. I was so impressive. I wish I never yelled. I want to be more like him. I'm trying to. But it was instrumental in keeping foundation training my focus. Yeah. None of what I've done has been real. It's all been on purpose, but it hasn't been like, oh, I'm going to do that. Yeah. And then that's going to happen. Yeah. It's been a nonsensical series of serendipitous events. Yeah. It really has. But I've been there for every one and shown up to the best of my ability. And it's like, this thing has legs. Yeah. somehow nobody has taught rehabilitation doctors and therapists and across the board that you have to have a stronger posterior chain than anything else in your body.
Yeah.
We are not symmetrical beings. A big mentor of mine, Dr. Tim Brown, gave me the best quote I think I've ever heard. The human being and body is not supposed to be symmetrical. It's supposed to respond very well to asymmetries. Always moving towards a balance, never
Front-loaded,
finding it.
rear-loaded. Yeah.
But the dominant chain of movement is the posterior chain.
Yeah.
The dominant chain of rotation is different. But propulsion and slowing down, so acceleration and deceleration is very posterior chain driven.
Yeah.
Most comes from the rear.
Yeah.
And then you have, a lot of people focus on quad muscles, the thigh muscles. Those are decelerators. They're not accelerators. They're supposed to slow you down after you sped up.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to keep things loaded on the back of the leg well enough that when you're accelerating, you're not using those muscles. You're using the spring-loaded backside of the hips and legs. A lot of people just aren't in that position because they sit all the time.
I'm the poster child for the person who needs
I wish I had a short haircut and I look like a total hippie right now, but
dude, your fucking back of your neck is like just dead straight.
Well, it shouldn't be dead straight. It should be strong.
Yeah.
So dead straight is this.
Yeah.
Can they see profile if I do this?
A little bit. Yeah.
How about like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So dead straight is like this. It's called anterior head carriage.
Yeah. Well, yours looks right.
This is a good opportunity to explain for people. So if you've ever been told you lost the curve of your neck or something like that, this is not how your head's supposed to be. This actually straightens a curve that is meant to pull the skull behind you.
Yeah.
Not like this, not like military neck where you're angry. The weight of the head needs to learn to be lifted by the front of the neck muscles.
Yeah.
And when that occurs, it's a very important lever, one of the most important levers in the body. When I say lever, I mean it is the lever that turns on muscles to absorb weight in the body versus levers that sort of turn off muscles.
Yeah.
You want a lever that turns on muscles.
Yeah.
That lever, actually, everybody who's watching this, you too, touch the bone right at the base of the skull, right where the ponytail is.
Yeah.
You'll feel that little bone, pointy bone. That's your pointy little tip of the occiput, the skull bone.
Yeah.
I want you to try to lift that behind you. Yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden, you're going to feel what's called the sternocleidomastoid, the SCM muscles engage. Now, when you take your hand away, keep your head there. And it will keep your posture in a very different position. And just take a deep breath through your nose. And you're going to feel those muscles contract. You feel that lift of the rib cage a little? That lever creates a lift of your breathers, of the lungs. It provides what I would consider like a shield. You don't want to drop below where the shield needs to be. But that lever doesn't happen at the spine. It happens at the skull.
Yeah.
And that leverage of the skull lifting up and back maintains the cervical neck curve here instead of losing the curve here.
Yeah.
And you know, when you lose the curve here, the curve gets taken out somewhere, and it's usually at your lower back.
Yeah. Man,
and I don't want to. I know this isn't
so
like a
cool.
medical.
No, this is
thing.
This is awesome. Like I love getting to the opportunity to kind of like soak up
Cool.
some of the knowledge. You know.
Cool.
So there's a million ways to go from here. Like, do you want to maybe keep talking about like the development a little bit of like, you know, like what? So what was the first ideas that you kind of got around this?
I had to extend my spine, which I didn't know.
So you had some back pain.
I still do.
Okay.
I don't have back pain so much. I can control it extremely well, but my injuries have not gone away. I have, if you look at my spine, it's actually, you might even be able to search my name in my spine, but if you go on to like our social media and stuff, I've shared my MRI a number of times.
Yeah.
And it's an MRI that was taken in 2012. And I had already started foundation training. I was 5 years in, solid 5 years in 2012. I started in the middle of middle of 2006. I was 6 years in. I started with the team in 2007. In the middle of 2006, I was 1 year out, or 1.5 years out of graduating chiropractic school. I had just moved to Los Angeles to transfer schools because there's a very good sports medicine community and program at the Los Angeles Chiropractic College. So I transferred over in 2005. I was maybe 6 or 6 months or a year in, and my back was bad. Like I had been having kind of progressively worse back symptoms. Just it would lock up and then you kind of stand
Was
up.
it
You
in
can't.
like the front or the
Oh,
rear?
no. I'm sorry,
So
it
like
was
the lower back muscles.
So yeah, it was my it was my lower back, just overall degeneration and disc protrusions in the lower back. L4, L5, S1 were the worst. And I was recommended at 26 to have what's called a 2-level 360-degree fusion, where they just give you space and then they keep it there.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not. It's scaffolding.
Yeah.
Now, I did not understand my back in any way, shape, or form like I do now.
Yeah.
At that phase, and I got nervous. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm 26 years old. I have to get maybe 27, whatever it was. I have to get surgery. No, I'm not getting surgery. Okay, I'm not getting surgery. Shit.
What do I do now?
And I know I'm halfway through chiropractic school.
Yeah.
I'm a personal trainer since 18. I was a total anatomy and physiology dork. If you could only imagine.
Yeah.
Like I love the body. What a cool, wild trip. And then when it breaks down, you can build it back. It's a fucking self-repairing machine. Are you kidding me?
It is.
What is this AI stuff we have going on? So it's this incredible thing when you get more into it. The more you go into it, the less you understand.
Yes.
But the more you can see and the more you can piece together.
Yeah.
It takes a very, very, very long time to put the complex stuff into simple pathways. So I was going through an episode of back pain. And what I would always do for my back was I'd go to yoga or I'd go swim. Those were the two things that gave me, I got relief. I remember it very well. I was living in Huntington Beach at the time, going to school in Whittier, and there was a Yoga Works on Huntington Beach Main Street, and just was doing a yoga class, and I did a chair pose, but my back was out, so I couldn't straighten my back, so it hurt like hell. And I always tried to straighten my back in my whole life at my spine. I always tried to straighten my back at my spine. And in this moment, not because I was thinking of doing it, but because my body kind of reflexively did it. And it just kind of like allowed me to take the strain out of my lower back by lifting the bottom leverage edge of my pelvis, lengthening my hamstrings from the top under the pelvis. It's called a proximal hamstring or a hip hinge, which I didn't quite understand the method yet. I had done deadlifts, I had done squats, I had been working out, I'd done all that, but I didn't understand the process yet. And it wasn't until I shifted the role of extending my spine from my spine itself to pulling my sacrum down and back away from my spinal injuries that I had never felt relief like that. It was an off switch. Now I know the off switch very well. I can teach anybody the off switch within reason. There are certain injuries and there are certain degenerations. There are certain things that you got to get a surgery. You have to. Very often it's a hip surgery, not a back surgery. But there are a lot of scenarios where you got to get surgery. Thank God for surgeons. In my case, at 26, 27 years old, I was a pretty strong guy, 200, 6'1", 6'2", 230, 225. I was a big dude. Yeah. And I had a lot of muscle to maneuver. And I just kept trying to find the sensation that I had in that yoga position, in that chair pose, when I pulled my hips up and back behind me and allowed that to straighten my spine. Yeah. Can I show that? Yeah. So what I mean when I say that, it's very hard. So foundation training is very hard to understand and observe unless you... Okay. So in any squat-like position, the one that I happen to be doing was a chair pose where your feet are more or less together. Sometimes they have you squeeze them, which is a very smart thing. And you're just, imagine sitting in a chair, but at the moment I couldn't straighten my back out like this. It hurt too bad. So what I did is I took my hips and I pulled them behind me, pitching my torso forward, allowing these muscles to take over and begin competing against my hamstring muscles. And that changed my life forever, that mechanism.
So wild.
And it's kind of helped a lot of people. It's really wild. I'm often like a little bit in shock of what foundation training has done, the trajectory, the process, the people it's affected, the people that I've got to meet.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, well, I think when you kind of come up on something that, like, I mean, this might be a weird analogy, right? But so on the guitar, you've got a fretboard with all these different notes, right? And they all make the same sound. If you've got the strings tuned in the right way, they all, this is this thickness, this is like it just works. And there's rules and laws that it follows. Okay. And you can remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can remember all the A's, all the B's, all the C's, all the D's, E, F, G, right? Over the whole thing. But there's patterns and there's relationships and there's links. And so it's like
those melodies.
And to what you discovered is almost like so there's this thing called the cage theory in guitar, right? So it's like C, A, G, E, D. And if you play a C shape here with this root note, it gives you this. So it's like there's 5 shapes, there's 5 strings. Like it's just this weird way that if you memorize this system, then it like gives you this result. Like you kind of unlock something in the guitar. And I feel like what you're describing is that whole system is just there. It's in nature. Like that's a law, it's a rule, it's a thing that everybody has the same muscles and the same, and you've discovered the cage system of, this particular thing. So it's like you kind of discover this thing that's there first in a way.
I definitely had an incredible epiphany moment of what the relationship of the adductor muscles at the middle of the pelvis, where they attach the middle of the thigh to the lower groin. Right between them is called the pubic symphysis. Yeah, it's where the two halves of the pelvis collide and meet. Yeah, it's where very unfortunate athletes do this. Yeah, and then they have to rehab for about 2 years.
When we were talking, sorry to interrupt. When we were talking about the hip injury that I had, so I had what are the ligaments in between there? The two at the bottom. The pelvic floor ligaments or whatever they're called.
Oh God, I'm so bad at naming things.
But anyway,
probably ischial ligaments, probably ischial. If you had them down there, it's the pelvic bones, it's the ischium, and they probably pulled off.
So that got stretched.
Yeah.
So like, man, for one, I reckon
sacred tuberous,
something like that. So for 6 months, dude, I could not stand on one leg. Oh, my hips would lift, like it would just move.
So your obturator?
What's that?
Does obturator ring a bell?
I don't think they ever told me. I think they just said like pelvic floor, like ligaments.
Let's use pelvic floor because I don't even understand the Latin half the time. Like nobody else is. I've learned that over the years. People understand anatomy from an understanding of mechanics. They can see it, they can recognize. But once you start using the language of medicine and anatomy, it's completely useless to most people, including me. Like you just saw, like I teach anatomy for a living, but I don't teach the words of anatomy. I teach the feeling of it.
Yeah. But so my point was that in losing those muscles or in losing those ligaments, like with that injury, I realized how important those ligaments are.
Yeah. They center you.
Yeah.
They center you completely. So you mentioned cage theory. So in music, you can play beautiful songs, badass songs, instrumentals, all sorts of things without cage theory. In movement, you can do amazing stuff. You can make all sorts of integrations and connections and strengths, and you can live an incredibly strong, pain-free life without things like foundation training. But if you're not so good at playing music and you want to get better, cage theory will get you there. Yeah. If you are not that good at movement, or you're pretty good at movement, but you think there's room to improve, foundation training will get you there. Yeah. The missing link is partially that proximal hamstring contraction. But what that hamstring relationship did, what the leveraging of the pelvis back, and that created this understanding of counterbalance. So it was like step 1, have pain. Step 2, find a moment of relief that is replicable, repeatable. Step 2, find it again. Step 3, you know what? For the next year, find that same moment. Don't get ahead of yourself. Slow down and just enjoy the relief. Yeah. Maybe we're at step 4 now. I understand that my back has to be strong enough that my hamstrings don't dominate. Because if the hamstrings dominate, the back will flex under that tightness. Must have strong extensor muscles of the spine, but they can't overextend the back or else it becomes problematic. Yeah. For the same reason, just the other direction. So my back got strong, my hamstrings got strong. What that started to teach me, it was like it advanced my understanding of the spine and the nervous system from a mechanical and sensation
like
standpoint.
how it integrates with
Not the nervous system,
Yeah.
but the activation of muscles and the messages those same pathways send to the brain.
Yeah.
That I can help people understand very well. That hamstring and back relationship started helping me understand the rotational relationship of the femurs, the thigh bones, being much more important than long or short hamstrings or long or short glutes or anything. It was the overall spiraling from the feet up, wrapping the hips, that really communicated how the spine should move. I hadn't gotten here yet. I was about to. I was probably 2011 when the occiput started to make major sense. And it started to make sense because I was trying to fix my back. And I kept getting a little further, and then like I'd hit a long plateau. And each of these epiphany moments was 6 months to a year in the making.
Yeah.
Trying to climb up and sliding down, climb up, slide down. And then you're like, oh, can I repeat it? Is it repeatable? Yes, it is repeatable. Okay. What happens if I do this? Oh, no, that doesn't work. What happens if, this trial and error? And really ridiculous. You have to have a lot of time and a lot of desire to do this. I was able to focus my life on relieving my pain and very luckily make a career out of it. Or else I could never have done it that long.
You come across a thing that is quite common, you know what I mean? Like, and
back pain.
Every great business is a business that solves a problem, you know?
And by the way, I never went up to anybody. I still don't. I don't really say, hey, I can get you out of pain.
Yeah.
I say, let me teach you something that you can use and develop the skill of that will help you get out of pain.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing it, you're not going to, you'll have torque, you'll have a little bit of discomfort, but you're not going to have the symptom that you came for. You're not going to have the thing that's ruining your life.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the thing that's stopping you from picking up your kid. That's a biggie. That's a really biggie. Playing with your kid. I have a 1.5-year-old and a 6-year-old daughter. If I couldn't do what they want me to do, I'd go nuts.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. With my injury, I cannot do that. Luckily, I have had foundation training for 15, 16 years. And I have scaffolding around my back and hips that is, Bruce Lee style.
Yeah.
My back is extremely strong. My hips are extremely strong because of the 16 years of every single day work I've done. What that has let me do is make 10-minute videos and 5-minute videos that help you get there much faster than it took me.
Yeah, yeah.
Much faster.
Yeah.
Like, here's the recipe that it took a very long time to understand. There's no invention, mind you. I actually like how you said discovered.
Yeah.
I was walking around in the dark, and luckily, when I popped my flashlight on, it was just aiming at this sensation of relief.
Yeah.
I don't know how else I don't know what I would do right now if I hadn't found this.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could be a chiropractor in the pain that I was in. I wasn't able to adjust patients without my back going out. It sucks. That sucked. It was very frustrating. I love and believe in chiropractic, but not standalone. It is not enough alone. There's nothing that's enough alone physically. Foundation training is nowhere near enough alone. Chiropractic does a great job of osteopathic manipulation, physical therapists that manipulate, whatever. Whoever does physical adjusting of the body can do a really nice job of helping to align your spine, your hips, your ankles, your wrists, your earlobes. It's really amazing what can move in the body. But you have to have the strength to stabilize it.
Yes.
It's on you.
Yeah.
Don't be so fucking lazy, people. Life's hard. Imagine if you didn't have an air conditioning and it got hot. Imagine if you didn't have a heater and it got cold. You better keep moving or you have heavy, we have these systems in us that need to be worked.
Yeah.
And if you're just kind of sitting around and not using your body, you are missing out on huge enjoyments of life by simply exercising and healing and helping systems.
Yeah.
What foundation training can do for systems in the body is provide a scaffolding, additional space
and room,
room, expansion that allows tissue to just have space and room to heal.
Yeah.
Add that to healthier diets, better hydration, better environment, maybe biggie for people. I know a lot of motocross racers and supercross folks live in Florida, in North Carolina, different places that are super humid. You got to pay attention to mold. If you have any kind of chronic illness in your life or chronic symptom, check out if you're in a moldy or water damaged environment. I have learned this from doctors because of my own family stuff over the years, and it is some of the most important lessons I've ever learned. Sometimes the environment's bad for you, and there's things you can do, things you can take. Sauna therapy, be it infrared, traditional. I prefer traditional, but things like that are incredible for environmental health issues and pain relief too. But if you're a person in those areas and you're having issues, not just pain, but other issues, I'd look into that, look into mold, look into stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree about chiropractic. Like my dad broke his back, and when he was probably early 30s or something like that, racing motocross. And so his back was fucked forever, basically. Wow. He used to go.
Oh, he was able to keep going.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So he didn't have any like spinal cord injuries. But he's always gone to the chiropractor my whole life, and I'd go to the chiropractor as well. And like the older I got, and I'd be like, "Oh, my back's out, my back's sore," and you get this relief for an hour, couple of hours. It's literally just like a kind of a. I think this actually applies to more than chiropractic, but it's like then you go home, and it's like, okay, well your muscles are fucking tight. So the thing that's pushing it, like your spine's out because you've got some misalignment going on, and you've got a lot of tension and a lot of weakness on the front, tension in the back, or vice versa. And so it's like no matter what adjustments are being made, it's getting pulled back to where it was before.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I think the same holds true with massage. You know, it's like you can get this massage, you can feel amazing when you leave, and it's relaxed, and you've got this lack of tension. But if your head's forward, these muscles are going to get lazy and fucked, and then these ones at the back are going to get overworked and tight. So it's like that same thing that sent you needing a massage. It still persists in the body. So it makes sense to me in my life experience that you actually need to frame your body properly. Like you have to build a foundation that lets things stay in alignment to where they are, you know? And I spend all day, my shoulder blades are out, my shoulders are rolled forward, my back's tucked, my head's forward, I get tired. Like I'll spend hours and hours and hours a day in this anatomically fucked position. And then I wonder why when I go to bed, my psoas muscles are screaming at me. Like 2 nights ago, or last night it was, I literally got to bed, laid in bed for half an hour and went, fuck this. And I went downstairs, got on my stretching mat, and I got on the psoas. And I had to spend like half an hour just trying to but the same thing, it's going to come back again tomorrow. Yes. It's only this like maintenance that I'm doing, and it's like I'm the person, like you're talking directly to me. Like I need to do this, you know.
So I love that you brought up the psoas muscle, because that's what people hear about a lot. It's a very popular muscle. Shitty muscle. Yeah. It's really small. Yeah. It's like thin little long band, and most of the psoas, the vast majority, the vast majority of that psoas muscle on either side of you actually is like it's more of a back muscle than a front muscle.
Yeah.
So here's how my brain works on this stuff. If you come to me with a tight psoas, the last thing in the world I want to do is squeeze, push, mash, because it's angry already.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're tucked in a corner, do you want somebody to go push you?
Yeah.
You want somebody to coax you out gently, in kind of like a trusting way. And here's how the body understands trust. It understands trust through neurological activation or relaxation, not through pressure. We're like horses. We run from pressure. We don't like it. Pressure can help us. You can add resistance in a good posture and get very strong from pressure, or you can add resistance in a bad posture and get really hurt from pressure. It's kind of the way the body accepts pressure that's really important. So when I think of a tight psoas, I'll use this only as an example. I look at where the psoas attaches to the femur. It attaches to the inner part of the thigh bone, upper thigh bone. Yeah. So right at the crease of the hip, where a lot of people feel a lot of pain.
Yeah, I have crazy tight hips there.
So do something with me while we're sitting here.
Yeah.
You're going to have your feet in front of you, but not at chair. They're going to be a little further ahead of you, like you're driving a car.
Yeah.
And I want you to turn your heels way out and your toes way in, and you'll feel...
I literally get pain there.
You get the cramp there.
Yeah.
So I want you to sit through that cramp for 5 breaths. Keeping the inertia, the mechanism is heels away from center, knees towards each other.
Yeah.
And you're going to get that cramp. Now all I want you to do is just take deep breaths. That cramp is realigning the attachment point of your psoas muscle to where it's meant to be, inward, as the thigh looks up. not as the thigh looks out.
Mm.
As the thigh looks out, it stops the psoas muscle from letting the thigh move. It does something called adaptive shortening. Excuse me. It's like I have to access a whole different part of my brain to explain some things. It's like I have to become two different people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but let me get to that, and let me get to that place where I can visualize it. So as the psoas tracks, it comes off like the lower middle of the spine, kind of right around where the kidneys are, is where the psoas muscles start on either side of the spine. And they're meaty up there. They're strong. They're like thick.
Yeah.
Then they get weak and long.
Yeah.
The longer they are, the weaker they get. And the very thin tissue, because the tissue is not really supposed to contract to lift the knees. The tissue is supposed to contract as you extend back. It's like a backrest, and it's supposed to stop your spine from going further. Imagine you're at the stadium and you have those little fold-out pads with the two straps.
Yeah.
Those straps that stop it from moving further.
That's basically what
that's
the
your
psoas
psoas.
is doing. Okay.
In order to make the psoas muscle find its accurate length, you have to rotate the femur head inward, the thigh bone inward a little bit to neutral. Very few people are anywhere near neutral. They're turned out. So you want to go to neutral. When you get there, you want to lift the back ribs away like a turtle shell. Not a turtle shell. An upright, strong postural expansion. Because in that rib cage and spinal backward expansion, you lengthen the lat muscle. When the lat is doing its job, the psoas doesn't have to. When the adductor muscle and the glutes are in better communication because of that inward rotation of the thigh bones, the psoas just relaxes as it's meant to, because the only time it's called into action is a hyperextension.
Yeah, okay.
And it will literally get the neurological message and imprint. You're okay.
Yeah, you don't need to
You're
work
fine.
here. Yeah.
Relax. You're off. And the change in people is quite cool. It's quite cool.
Yeah.
But it takes time. You got to understand, like, okay, when I'm sore here, I stretch. You can stretch it, but really you're positioning the other muscles that surround it at their best position so that it can chill.
Yeah.
Instead of just working on mashing and smashing a psoas.
Yeah. So you get a bit further down the road in foundation training to where it becomes like it's always this thing that you worked on. But when did it start to become, I guess, like I'm not implying this business is like it's a money grab business. I'm just saying business in terms of like it's an organization. Yeah. It's like this legitimate thing that you're working on and you're starting to teach. And like, what was that process kind of like? Because, and so I envision this in the way that it's just like it's kind of like this with the way my business is. It's like, I just love doing this. It's my passion. Mm-hmm. It's a great life that I get to live. I get to talk to these interesting, epic people, and then I get to share it with other people who find them interesting. And but then it becomes a business, and then it becomes sustainable, and then I can invest in it, and I can try and do more. And, so it's like, that's the same thing, I think, with you. It's like, you've just got this passion that you've had, and you have this product that you're like, I believe in this. This works. I see it doing good for other people. Like, what's that process look like, and how does that kind of get rolling for you? Because
you see my gray hairs?
Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
Oh, I get it. But you've gone on to have success with so many athletes, and work with so many different types of people and all these different types of industry. So I guess I'm just interested to hear that process and how it kind of got rolling.
I'll do my best to help you understand mine, because I didn't understand mine. I'm starting to. I've actually learned about business in the past few years.
Yeah.
I've had three, really two, but kind of three business teams.
Yeah.
I've always been, like, what happens is, okay, so hang on, let me back up. The first person that was there for me has been my best friend of 30 plus years. Dr. Dustin Dericki. He went to chiropractic school with me. He was 6 months behind me. By the time I graduated, I had already been starting this, and he was really tech savvy.
Yeah.
So he's I'm like, hey, Dustin, this is
the
what
back end stuff.
This is what we're doing. I don't know how it's going to work, but we'll figure that between your engineering knowledge and just creative knowledge, he's just always been he went to chiropractic school because I did, honestly.
Yeah.
And he just didn't know what the fuck to do. So he did that, and he's really smart, so he can pass anything and do anything. And he got out of it, and he's like, I don't really want to be a chiropractor. I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I had no structure of any kind. It wasn't called foundation. It wasn't called anything.
Yeah.
I just had this proximal hamstring contraction mechanism that I was building upon and starting to create exercises. The founder, the woodpecker, my best exercise I ever have, the adductor assisted back extension. The way to do that Superman movement without compressing your spine is to squeeze the adductor muscles and rotate the hips in, giving space to that lumbar extension. Best thing I ever put together. I think I said invent. Best thing I ever discovered.
Yeah.
That is the thing. So back to the business. I have paid a lot of people a lot of money that I should have really kept. I've learned as many naive lessons as a maybe Asperger-y kind of person can learn because I love what I do. And I think every fucking person that comes in wants to help me because they like it like I do, but they see the money potential.
Yeah.
And I haven't. Foundation training as a business over the years, we've done pretty good.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy, but myself, Dr. Dustin, Jesse Salas, who's like the main coach, head coach, teaches all of our certifications. Paul Matthew, who's made every video production we've ever done since 2011. Those guys have all been paid really well over the years, and they're still there.
Yeah.
It's the ones that aren't still there that got paid better. And took us for a couple of rides that I was, I guess, yeah, when somebody says, hey, we can help you make a ton of money, I do. I'm not only into this because it feels good. I want to make a living.
Yeah, but also, like, as the person that's doing the thing, you can't do all the other things. Like, I've got a million things today that I just, like, didn't do because I had to do, like, my actual job, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's a challenge.
Yeah. I wish I wasn't as handicapped in certain things as I am when it comes to business, because I probably would have saved a lot of people a lot of, like, real stress.
Yeah.
As I think about that, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I wish I could have improved earlier.
It's fucked, dude. I feel ya. Like, it's a challenging. Yeah, it's very hard to do this kind of work. You know?
Yeah, but so I've not stopped doing the exact same thing I've been doing since 2007. I just am trying to understand this work, and I teach it to every single person that will give me the opportunity to teach it. From a business standpoint, so let me try to keep focused. From a business standpoint, we have learned how to make a good business.
Yeah.
In that time, I don't think I would call them enemies, but I'm sorry to certain people that have had to deal with my personal, whether it be just eccentricities or stubbornness or moods or whatever it is. Like, certain people just couldn't cut it.
Yeah.
And in that process, we had to give them a lot of money, not crazy money, but like, a lot of money. Enough, like we couldn't pay ourselves the salary we wanted to pay ourselves because we had to pay X, Y, and Z. My dad did the coolest thing in the world. I'm very lucky. My parents are still alive. I say my dad, but it's my mom and dad. My dad had a life insurance policy, and we were in a predicament where somebody was trying to, basically they had put our business into debt of almost $250,000 without my knowledge. This is somebody that I brought in to run the business because I teach, I train, I do the thing. Yeah, I'll pay you the same salary as me. Of course I will. Yeah, you can have 30+% of the company. Of course you can. No problem. That's not going to put me in any hole. I was 31 years old when I made this deal. I had no idea what I was doing. I'm 43 now. I have a much better understanding and much bigger balls in business when I'm talking to people.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was able to separate from this guy only for the debt owed, which was a lot. And my dad took out a loan on his life insurance policy so that we didn't have to bring in some other fucking business person to do it with us. And the coolest thing ever is we paid every single dollar back on time, no questions asked, while we were also paying our salaries, while we were also redoing foundation training after we got that business team out of there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we lost a lot of people in that.
Yeah.
We were like an 8-person team at that stage. This was 2011, 2012, 2013. By 2014, we were a much smaller team. But we had to start from scratch. We almost went bankrupt. We almost gone bankrupt a couple times. That doesn't happen anymore. But we have a couple times. Because we don't know how to make a physical movement, symptom relief education into a business. And we've had enough people and consultants come through for $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month,
Yeah.
telling us how to do our thing. And all of a sudden, 6 months into it, 7 months into it, 8 months into
You're
it, we're
what
like,
the fuck are we doing?
wait a
here?
second.
Yeah.
George Carlin said it best. I love stand-up comedy. I love George Carlin. He's like, you ever been talking to somebody and you're like, they're so interesting. You're like, oh, wow, really, really. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, bullshit. You're just bullshit. That's all this is bullshit. I'm a fucking idiot for falling for it.
Yeah.
And we've done that enough times. I really hope we don't do it again. I think our radar is up. Jesse and Dustin have a really clean radar these days when it comes to like personalities and the folks trying to come in with are they coming in to help us or are they coming in to help us?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Now here's the cool thing. My crew has never deserted me and vice versa. Dustin, Paul, Jesse. There's times where I wish Brian were still involved because Brian's at heart a good dude, but he didn't mesh with us.
Mm.
And ultimately he's doing his thing. But my core group of Dustin, Jesse, Paul, me, we've been running this thing for a very long time.
Yeah.
And now we have actually separated ourselves from the help.
Yeah.
That was giving us a lot of advice and taking a lot of our money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, shit adds up.
And we're putting that money instead into building new programs, to creating a customized app instead of the platform that we're using right now, which is great. We use Uscreen. Anybody looking to make an app that's like modest scale, Uscreen is an amazing platform. Thank you guys. You've been super flexible with us for since 2018. But our app, our streaming platform does a really good job. That became a huge backbone of our business. One of the things we learned is you don't always have to educate in person. And for years, I thought this work was too complicated to learn via video. The first 12-minute video, like that's one version, but if anybody who goes into foundation training recognizes it's a lesson in physicality.
Yeah.
It's a lesson in your anatomical body, your breathing patterns, your stance, your walk, your posture, your movement of the shoulders, the ankles, the knees. Everything starts to go into this concert of movement. We've got like 30 plus exercises that teach that. So we learned that by doing this app, it actually frees us up to do other things. We make constant content for the app, so it's busy. We have to run it. We have to answer questions. We have 990 something workouts on there.
Yeah.
So we have to organize that. We have to do new programs. We have a 65 and up program that's amazing. We have a golf program, a jiu-jitsu and combat strength program with the Rutolo brothers, oddly enough.
Sick.
We've had a very interesting series of people
come
into our lives and vice versa.
Yeah.
And that app has been wonderful for us. So the most financially sound thing we've ever done in the business is creating the app.
Yeah.
And then not just creating it, but trying to make it better every time we work on it, which is weekly. We're always trying like, what can we do? What can we do?
Yeah.
Building the new app is going to give us some really cool functionalities, but that's going to be, 6 months off.
Yeah.
I've written 3 books. My wife wrote 1 book. Those help get the word out. The YouTube videos are cool. It's like a platform for educating a little bit and advertising a lot.
Yeah.
We don't advertise on YouTube, but my videos have been very successful on there.
Yeah.
We have a great YouTube page. We have over 100,000 subscribers. We've got videos with millions of views on there that have helped a lot of people. They feed people to the app because sometimes they're like, oh, this is cool. I wonder what else it is. They see the app. They're like, holy shit, this is like an academic arena.
Yeah.
This is like a thing.
Yeah.
Not everybody's into that, and I understand that. And then my most the thing I'm most proud of in all of this is our certification group.
Yeah.
So we have like 1,300 or so foundation training instructors around the world, and that number keeps climbing. Our certification groups are 20 to 30 people. We've done 50-ish, 55, maybe 56 certifications over a 12-year period. And for a very long time, for the first like 4 or 5 years of the business, with the exception of occasional DVDs, that certification was our bread and butter. And so to give people an understanding, we had, 6, 7, 8 people working for a business that was making maybe $500K a year on a really good year. So we were nothing crazy. The addition of the app has helped. Our certification course also got a lot better in the past few years. We took hold of everything much closer.
Yeah.
We started treating this like it was not our baby, more like this is our long-term art project. I don't know if you know, there's a long since passed, I don't know much about him, so I'll probably screw this up, but a guy, Gaudi in Spain, that was just, his whole life was spent working on a building.
Yeah.
His cathedral, his thing.
Yeah.
And, or whatever, maybe not cathedral, whatever it was. But that thought process, I remember when I was on a trip in Europe when I was young, I was like 24 years old after college, and I was just backpacking, doing that thing that you do for, a few weeks. And I went to Spain, and I learned about this Gaudi museum, this guy. And this was before foundation training. This was before anything. I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Everybody's looking at a million careers. I was like, I knew I was becoming a chiropractor. I hadn't started school, but I was about to start chiropractic school. And I was like, wow, I feel lucky. I got into a profession that is like this is something I'm going to work on for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Little did I know I was literally going to have a thing that I'm going to be working on for the rest of my life without question. That's not an option. The water polo team, just to bring that back, they gave me a confidence that you can't buy, you can't practice, you can't fake, you can't anything. They hid my shoes. They made fun of me. They put me through the ringer. They hazed me, but we ultimately became friends, a lot of us. And what they gave me was the hardest respect I have ever had to earn.
Yeah.
And in that process, like learning how to be confident, how to have a better work ethic, how to be accountable, and how to get past when you screw something up. And those lessons have now translated into business, where things that would have probably sunk a lot of people, I kind of was like, well, I can tread water for a pretty long fucking time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. You could try, but you're not going to sink me.
Yeah.
You can try hard. And people have not tried to sink us. I don't think anybody's ever entered my world with malicious intent, but I don't think anybody's ever been around people that are truly in love with what they do over the outcome of what it is.
Yeah.
And where it goes from a business and financial standpoint.
Yeah.
I have said many times, if anybody's going to screw up my business, please let it be me, because I wouldn't be able to forgive anybody else.
Yeah.
But I can understand if it's my shortcomings that mess this up.
Yeah.
And that's been our role of business. I have an amazing, just best friend group. We fight like brothers. We love each other like brothers. We've been each other's lives for a long time. Jesse is my brother-in-law. I met my wife, his sister, because of him.
Yeah,
we used to work out when I was 20 years old in college. He was a firefighter in Orlando. He and I used to go wakeboarding and work out together for years. I didn't see him for 10 years. All of a sudden I get a message from his sister, who I met a couple times very randomly, hey, hello, nice to meet you. Just thought she was super hot, in college. And next thing I know, I'm 30 years old and I get an email from Jen. Whoa, okay, I remember you. Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
She became a pediatric physical therapist, very focused on movement and like working with really hard cases, really messed up, very unfortunately, kids that have had major handicaps and cerebral palsies and muscular dystrophies and different things like that. She told me stories about kids that they were in a pool, they drowned for 3 to 4 minutes and it changed their brain structure forever. And you're just like, it's heartbreaking shit that she's seen. But she brought that world to foundation training. And when we got together and started talking, it was just two nerds in love, plain and simple. And she wrote that Shaping Your Baby's Foundation book, which is bridging her work in pediatric development and parental development with my work in foundation. And it's pretty cool. But our team is family. Dustin and I have been very dear friends since 14. Paul Matthew was the first person I met in Santa Barbara when I moved there in end of 2008 or early 2009. And I've been very dear friends with him ever since. And he literally, for free, never charged me $1 for the first years, not months, not couple videos. He made that YouTube video, that thing that started my career or our career in a lot of ways, that's got millions of views. He made that for free in my buddy in Peter Park's gym, off the cuff, because let's just make it real quick. He also made studio level fundamentals DVDs for us and different things. He shoots everything in a White Cove for us still. He does every single video shoot for us. We're a very loyal crew to the people that are loyal to us. And it's allowed us to see, this allowed us to get through together and also see how loyalty really looks.
Yeah.
Really. Not like how it looks when things are great. What's this shit look like when not only are things hitting the fan, but our well-being is hitting the fan?
Yeah.
Our money, our job, our career, bankruptcy is there. See that? That's 3 days away. What are we going to do? And we did it. We keep doing it. It's unreal. We keep floating. And we're floating better and it's getting easier and we're getting more efficient and the work is getting better and more people are hearing about it and holy shit, it's working.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about business.
Man, it's funny, the Goaty guy, that's a life well lived. you know, and I think that not many people get to discover that in their life. Like I say to people when they ask anything about me and work and whatever, and I'm just like, I just look at my life as a project. My whole life is a project, because like you're here, we kind of, not to get too existential, but we kind of just live like meaningless lives in a sense. Like, especially until I think you have kids. Like I don't have kids yet, but it's like my life is fucking meaningless. Like if I died tomorrow, there's going to be some people that miss me, but like pretty meaningless. You know, I don't have any kids I'm leaving behind. So, but even with that, you know, your kids get older.
I don't think your life is meaningless.
But in the grand, like in the cosmic scheme of things, like it is in a sense. You know?
You never know what your ripple effect's going to be.
Well, I agree with that for sure. But it's like you get, with that being said though, like you get a chance to make meaning of your life.
Yes.
And I think that then that's where you can touch these people by doing this thing. But it's like, if you just look at your life as a project, and I've got these different verticals in my life. I've got my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my family. I've got like, that's one pillar of my life. And then I've got my relationship with myself. And do I like myself, my insecurities, like all the things that I'm trying to work through, like how do I grow as a person? Then you've got your physical health, and then I've got my hobbies, and I've got my business. And it's just like, the secret to life is almost just spend your life getting all those things like the tiniest bit better every day. And it's like, you can, I think with what you've found in foundation training is that project, like you found the project that you just show up every day and it's better. And it's like, it doesn't matter whether you got $1 million in the bank. It doesn't matter if you got 10 grand in the bank. Like the work's going to be the same. The passion's going to be the same. And it's like, that's a beautiful way to live your life. And I think that's the way that you can become the most effective in your life for yourself and for other people.
Yeah. I think that there's so much desire to find a sense of purpose. Kids can do that right away, but they shouldn't. Your kids are your purpose, but your kids are very important, but kids shouldn't have the responsibility of being your sole sense of purpose. That's just my, I mean, I don't know. I'm not judging. I don't know. I have kids. They're a pain in the ass sometimes, but they're also amazing. But what life is an opportunity to find purpose. Yeah. And purpose is a sensation. It's not like a perspective. It's a sensation. You should feel weird when you're not doing the thing that you should be doing. What am I doing? I gotta be doing the thing. You should be doing the thing.
Fuck, maybe that's why I get anxious.
That's why I get anxious too. Because if I'm not doing the thing,
I'm not doing the thing.
But you know what's crazy? When I'm teaching, there's a couple times that nothing could get in. Anxiety, fear, excitement, happiness, joy, pain, nothing gets in. When I'm working with people, with a patient, with an athlete, with a client, I focus, maybe a little OCD, maybe a lot of OCD, and I start sweating and I get really in it. We're like creating this thing and we're like, because you're locked in. Yeah. Well, when I'm working with somebody, I have to kind of figure it out the whole time. Nobody gave me a playbook for this. So people are coming at me now. It's the best thing in the world. They're coming at me now with really hard problems. It's not easy. You got back pain, no worries. Please go to an instructor, follow the videos, read a book. You can use free stuff on YouTube. Chances are it's going to help. But we're seeing like autoimmune disorders and Parkinson's. We're seeing like loss of neural activity down the leg, and all these rotational movements start to open up. It's called the facet joint and the little hole that the nerve passes through. And it those muscles that are squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, they learn through that allowance of contraction on their other side, supporting them so that they don't have to do the support. That nerve pathway allows freedom, space, flow, communication. You have to be kind of locked in to do that. My instructors, our instructors, the foundation training community, the people that get really, really, really into this work and teach it to their clients, their patients, their families, they spend a lot of time understanding perspective, because I'm not teaching somebody, this is how this works, this is how that works. I'm saying, here's how I look at it. Here's what's been really successful. And when you make these adjustments and hold this position or that position or breathe this way versus that way, the efficiencies are not imagined. They are immediately felt and immediately noticeable. And And it's really hard to do that with people in pain. It's really hard to find those places sometimes. So when I'm working with patients, I have to get, when I'm teaching a certification course, I kind of have to get into like this flowish state where you can't, I don't even know anybody's there except the group I'm teaching. But my sensations are gone. Thoughts are gone. It's like, it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat. I miss it when I don't do it very much, you know, but I kind of have to recover from it too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Get back into the real world.
Yeah. I forget to eat. You just have to, like for me personally, my nervous system goes into kind of an overdrive where it's just all neural tone is going to this thought and delivery.
Yeah, it's cool.
Because I'm trying to
called,
communicate
like,
sensation.
That's called like real passion.
Yeah, I'm trying to communicate sensation, which is hard to like, here's what you should be feeling right now.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm going to teach you about your body.
Yeah.
Not through words.
It's like this relationship to this feeling.
It's called somatosensation. Somatosensation is the ability to sense and understand what is happening within the body. And the better you can improve that skill of feeling and understanding what you're feeling, the less panicked you'll be when things go wrong, and the better you'll understand how to get things right when it comes to like musculoskeletal type movements, breathing patterns.
So let's say there's somebody listening to this podcast right now and they're like, fuck, all right, I'm in. Let's go. This sounds like me. So, because I got a friend, one of my best mates, called him the other day. He's at the gym. And I'm like, what are you doing, bro? And he's like, oh, I'm at the gym. I've been having all this back pain.
Okay.
So I'm stretching for the first time in my life. And he's like, yeah, I'm like having this back pain. But then I got a friend who he had back pain and then he went and he had to get a hip surgery. So I'm wondering if my hips are fucked. So like the conversation that we're having now pertains to like so many people, you know?
Yeah, I lucked into that one. I mean, I became a chiropractor, so I was always going to be working in the back pain world in some way. But I really lucked into this pattern. Yeah.
And so let's say that guy comes to you right now and he's like, oh man, I'm like, he's young. He's like, I mean, he might be 40. He's like super good shape. He's always looked after himself. And he's having that kind of pain. Like, so he goes, all right, I'm pretty interested in this foundation training. Going to try and get rid of this. What's the protocol? How do people start?
Okay.
How long to you start feeling some results? Yeah. What's the progression? Like, what's the info, or like, what would somebody expect?
Good question. A lot
asking for a friend and myself.
Yeah, no, a lot of people start, and I love this. Start with our YouTube. I put really good information on YouTube. I recommend more my newer 12-minute video than the older one, but they'll both get you there. Now, where should a person who's very serious about learning this start? If you have a pain region in your body, like your neck hurts, and that's the issue. Your shoulder hurts, that's the issue. Your knee, your back, whatever. On my ftstreaming.com site, we have protocols. I have the back pain protocol, the hip pain protocol, neck pain protocol, shoulder pain, foot and ankle pain, knee pain. I think that's all. And those protocols are, I give an understanding, help you understand it, a few minutes. And then our instructor team, our education team takes you through the protocol. And you have different styles, different lengths, different intensities, but you go through this very deliberate corrective process. Corrective exercise should be harder than normal exercise by far. It should feel like you're cramping and pulling yourself apart.
That's what I had when I first started doing it. I had like crazy back pain. My hammies were on
like the muscles, you mean?
Yeah. Like my hammies were on fire. My lower back was on fire.
That's how it should feel.
I was fucking shaking. I was like, what is going on?
It's crazy.
Now? Yeah.
It's chaos.
Yeah.
The best athletes in the world shake like their whole bodies go into this because you're putting pulleys against each other. Strong muscles are competing and going against other strong muscles, and they're figuring it out. They're figuring it out. Okay. Oh, okay. There it is. It's a cool little shake that a lot of people go through, and you get a lot of soreness from it. The person so we have something called fundamentals. Yeah. When you go on FT streaming, you're going to see the first thing, fundamentals of hip hinging, anchoring, decompression. Our principles, the two principles of foundation training are anchoring the pelvis and decompressing the torso. Those two fight against each other. An anchored pelvis supplies strength to the feet, and you can lift off that anchor with decompression exercises. Once you've learned the fundamentals, which is usually a week, maybe 2, some people take a month. Number one, by your day 1, you should notice. Day 1. Day 2, you should notice more. Day 3, you should be like, okay, I'm starting to notice. I'm starting to feel this. This is cool. Okay, something's different. This is hard. I'm sore. Why are my shins so sore? Why are my back muscles so sore? Why are my hamstrings so tight? Okay, noted. Why my hips keep cramping? For people that get very into decompression breathing, you're very often going to get cramps above the kidneys in what's called the serratus posterior muscles, the muscles that open and close the cage. We're training them. It's hard. So go on to FT streaming or use YouTube. Let me see this book.
Yeah.
True to Form. I have 3 books and I'm super stoked on each of them. But if you want to understand the basic theory and how to apply the theory of foundation training to daily life, True to Form. Okay. That's a really good one. And it's easy to read. It's quick and you'll understand where we're coming from. On FT streaming. So a lot of people, we actually made a 65 and up program that is completely original, very interesting. All of the models are 70 years or older.
Yeah, right.
And it's like phenomenal. So we have a whole collection of about 25 or 30 workout routines for 65 and up on there. We have combat sports stuff. We have golf programs. We have very specific pain programs like the protocols. We've got a strength program where you can take foundation training into basic lifts and kettlebells with Jesse Solis, who's just an incredibly gifted instructor. So not only is he good at foundation training, but he had 17 years in the Orlando Fire Department. He retired from the fire department to become full-time with foundation training about 8-9 years ago now. But in doing that, he had been like the trainer, coach, strength guy for the fire department. So they would always send him out to get strong first certifications, starting strength certifications. And he was really highly certified. Well, you know a lot. The knowledge of FT combined with what he knows makes him a machine. He can get people through incredible things. So he's got a strength program on there. We've got a running program with a woman named Vicki Hunter, who's one of our 10-year instructors, if not longer. And she has one of the worst crush injuries in her rib and spine from getting hit by a car while running. She used foundation training to rehabilitate the unrehabilitatable to most people. And she still runs. She does 50 milers. She's on there telling you her story and taking you through running stuff that she does combined with foundation training from a 35+ year running coach. So we do that. We have surfing programs. I think I'm gonna talk to Peter and maybe Chase, maybe Chad. I think Chad would be the best. I'm gonna talk. I want to make a 2-wheel program.
Yeah.
And do something like that because they're not that different from the base programs, but you can make really easy kind of amendments,
tweaks to it.
Yeah, that make big changes for people. Like, one of the big things for a motocross rider. Peter Park says this extremely well, is breaking the handlebars while you're holding them. Yeah. Getting the lats to just, bending the handlebars. You're trying to bend that. A lot of people don't understand.
Would you say back or down?
Down.
Okay.
Down, like you're trying to turn your wrists up, but they can't move. So the lats under the armpits and wrapping the back of the ribs have to get bigger and contract.
Yeah.
So that's very different than this.
Yeah.
See how my chest came forward? You don't want that. You want big chest, and when you wrap, it actually protects the back. It doesn't push it forward. But that's Peter Park. Peter wrote that in our first book in 2011, Break the Handlebars. I've had people along the way that just opened my eyes to things because I was 100% focused on this posterior chain integration and this perfect alignment and this, blah, 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 blah. I'm in the lab. And then I got some amazing trainers and coaches that opened my eyes to what else what else can you use this for? Where else can I take this? How do I combine this theory and these principles into these other vectors of movement and mechanics? And that's got 31 exercises now.
Yeah.
And they're all completely original. You'll never see them anywhere else. They are based on these 2 principles. They're harder than anything you've ever done, most likely. That you'll literally be shaking. But in that shake, your body will find tune and tone. And in that tune and tone, the nervous system relaxes. And in that relaxation, not only do you get pain relief, but you get a lot. You get better mood, better efficiencies in the body, more space in the viscera, the organs, the stomach, the digestive issues, the spleen, the pancreas, the liver, all the gallbladder. They need room. They don't want to be squashed together. They want their individual space to function together as a unit, as a team, but they need space for their individual function. That's where decompression breathing comes in heavily, is making space for that whole region in the torso. It's a lot to learn, but you can also literally just learn an exercise or 2. In fact, another reason that our work became very popular in motocross is Dr. G.
Yeah,
do you know Dr. Yeah, he told me to say hello. You guys do this.
Oh, awesome.
He said, he told me to give you a shout out. He's what a great guy.
The best.
Unreal. His treatment capacity is unbelievable.
He's just a great person.
Yeah.
Like the great doctor, great, everything professionally, But all that means fuck all if you suck as a
Yeah.
dude, you know, and
Yeah.
he is just the nicest guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. We've just kind of like, we've been on each other's peripheries for a long time, and he's learned about foundation training from athletes, bringing it to him. And he actually brought Jesse. The reason that we work with the Ruotolo brothers is Dr. G's relationship with Jesse Solis. The Ruotolos were talking about really needing a strength something, and he was like, "You need to work with Jesse. You need to learn foundation training." And you know, a couple ADCC championships and some pretty major things. They've been really. They would have probably done it anyways because they're absolute machines, beasts. But they also love foundation training, could feel the changes, could feel the strength differences.
And they surf. They, you know, like they're kind of doing everything.
They do a lot, and they're very impressive. Very impressive. Actually, Jesse, I believe, is seeing them right now over at Dr. G's.
Oh, awesome.
But
yeah,
so,
hopefully Cade's going to come do the podcast soon. I actually saw him at Anaheim Supercross.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Nice.
His first time watching a Supercross.
That's
race.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, those kids that's awesome.
They're
kids
insane.
they're like 20 now, I guess. But so Dr. G, Peter Park, you wouldn't, maybe through finding the 12-minute video, but like people wouldn't have the respect for foundation training that they do if it wasn't for those two guys in the motocross and supercross community, in the surf community, in the fighting community. They're amazing. And I can't have enough appreciation for that. Like, my work has spread thanks to people. You know, I can't get on a mountaintop and shout it, you know. Anybody listening?
Yeah.
No? Shit. Okay. I hope you listen to somebody. Yeah, that's the process of spreading information.
So for let's say because I sadly did not stay consistent. And you know the thing that just pisses me off? I say this to people all the time. This is like part of my motivational speaking that I ever do on the podcast. You're going to be somewhere in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be somewhere in 5 years. You're going to be somewhere in 10 years. Are you going to be where you want to be and where you could have been?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to be in the same fucking place with all this waste of time? And I'm fessing up to my own failure of this right now, because I was like, fuck, I'm going to start doing this every day. And I did like 3 days, and it's like, it's so portable. You just need your body. You don't need it. Like, it's the perfect exercise routine to do for someone like me that's always moving, always traveling, doesn't have access to all that.
Yeah.
And I fucking dropped the ball.
So this is very interesting. We're going to go full circle. We're going to go full circle here. So foundation training is not it, by the way. But what you're describing is the desire to stick with something and improve, right? So much so that your life gets better. So what you're describing is purpose in life. And it's not exercise, mind you. It's the desire to be better 2 years later, to be better 5, not even be better. Let's take better out of it. The world just wants to get better. Fuck, like, sometimes you got to get worse. Okay. Sometimes you got to get a little fucking worse and get angry and get sad and get frustrated, pull your shit together, and then get better. So enough. Not everybody has to get better all the time. It's actually fucking obnoxious in social media to watch this stuff. Here's my, stop. Stop. Everybody's life is different. We go through ups and downs. Everybody does.
Very true.
And the person that's at the top has been at the bottom very often. Yeah. And probably be there again too. And we'll probably get back to the top too. It's about resilience. It's about digging yourself out. The purpose is, I want my life to feel the way, or at least in the arena of a life that keeps me wanting to live it, that keeps people wanting to participate, that keeps me wanting to participate. That's the purpose in life. It's not to make better pots. It's not to like build a bigger house. It's not to have a bigger career. It's, okay, I'm 43 right now. Who is very interesting at 53? I'm going to look around and find the most interesting people I can find at 53. Why are they interesting? Maybe I should pay attention to some of those things, because I want to be interesting to me, to my wife, to my kids, to my business partners, to the people that come into this world. I want everybody that comes into foundation training certifications and gets to spend 3 or 4 days with me learning from me to be like, that guy's pretty fucking weird. Man, he really knows a lot. You know, he's kind of funny too. He's like a funny guy. That's surprising. But he's like, wow, yeah, he knows a lot. That's crazy. That's what I want. So I have to keep working at that. My purpose in life is to like work at the things that give me, I want to do this. So if you just said it, you want to be better in 2 years. Okay. Who's a couple of years older than you what do they do? Who's a couple years older than you don't want to be like? Pay closer attention to what they do.
That's easy, yeah.
But once you've seen it, don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
Think about what the people you want to be like are doing. I used to watch, there's an interview between Jon Stewart and George Carlin at the beginning of Jon Stewart's career and towards the end of George Carlin's career. People on YouTube, go Google it. It's a very popular interview because there's just this, there's a cadence to it. Two people in love with what they do and really like with a lot of admiration for the other one. And it just oozes purpose. It oozes it. It's not a discussion on purpose. It's just like, I listened to these guys and it gave me like, I've probably watched that interview, no lie, 20 to 30 times in my life because it showed me how I want to speak. It showed me how I want to be kind of in a conversation. I want to be real. I don't want to shy around things. I don't want to pretend that I'm anything I'm not. I want to be the sweaty guy that gets nervous and teaches people stuff that blows their minds. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And I really look at my mentors as like, I don't have a mentor that's not somebody I want to be.
Yeah.
Or be like, I don't want to be them, but I want to be like them. I want to be like Terry Schroeder.
They have like an attribute.
Yeah. I want to be like Terry Schroeder. I want to be like my uncle, Dr. Glenn Goodman, lifelong surfer into his 70s. Amazing, amazing human being. Jimmy Buffett's doctor for years until he died. Used to go on surf trips with him everywhere. Many others too. But I want to be like Tim Brown and these people that I really admire traits of. And this is just my personal style, but I've really looked at how they live their life and what they do.
Yeah.
And I haven't tried to live their life, but I've looked at those traits very seriously.
Yeah. No. And I mean, you're so right. And like, I have those examples in my life, but I just often fall short.
Yeah. No, speaking of like authenticity and purpose, can I hit the bathroom real fast?
Yeah.
Cool.
Go for it. No dramas. Also, good idea on the cookies.
Yeah. I appreciate you recommending that.
Yeah, they're fucking pretty good there, actually.
They're fantastic.
So you said you have those guys that are like, they inspire you, whatever. Jack Freestone, that's my guy.
I believe that.
Every day, man, he gets up in the morning, he does his foundation training, he gets in the ice bath, he does the sauna, he's got his house in Kauai with his beautiful wife and his beautiful family. And every day he just gets up and he's not doing it for the gram. Like he's just zen. Like he's just fully doing it. It's his thing. He does it every day. That's the guy that I would like to be. And he's the kindest, nicest dude in the world. So he's one of the guys that I look at and I'm like, I need to be a little bit more Jack Freestone.
I would agree 100% with that not from you, but from my perspective. I don't know Jack like you do. I know him kind of he's a super friendly guy. What a great guy. Gone surfing with him once or twice and have, actually, he gave me the best compliment I think I've ever gotten from a pro surfer. He goes, "You're better than I thought you'd be." Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jack.
I can aim for that.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. Jack's a great dude. Yeah, we could all use a little bit of that. Just ease. Yeah.
So I start doing foundation training. I'm like 3 weeks in.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it every day. I've been consistent. What kind of changes am I going to feel physiologically, neurologically? What's going to start happening in that first 3 weeks to a month?
If you work with people on a daily basis, they'll start telling you look taller. That's the first thing we hear from almost everybody. You're standing up straighter. You look
Even
taller.
in like 3 weeks?
3 days.
Really?
If you're doing it right, if you're doing it diligently. I'm not kidding when I say it takes hold quickly. It really takes hold very quickly. Your body wants to have efficient patterns in movement. It doesn't want to hold its head like this. It wants to be where it wants to be. And when you help it get there, it holds tight. 3 days is quick, but it happens. 3 weeks is long for the effects to take hold. 3 weeks is like you're noticing things for week 1, 2, and 3. And what you're noticing is like when you take a step, you start to pull yourself forward with your foot instead of press off your calf, your hamstring and gluten gauges. When you're taking a step, if you're listening to the newer work in particular, especially if you've gone through the fundamentals, you're spreading the toes, leading with this lift called dorsiflexion of the toe, the ankle, that loads the arch, loads the spring of the posterior chain, the back of the body. So now at 3 weeks in, we'll say, well, let's just call it a month in. At a month in, you're feeling stronger. Your lower back is feeling confident, meaning The muscles that surround the lower back, if you're there for a back injury, are not letting the back settle into its injury pattern with nearly as much ease as they used to. In addition to that, you're standing with your feet ahead of you, not in front of you, facing where they want to go instead of facing away from each other. That's a biggie. If you're not getting that yet, you're noticing that you feel more comfortable when your feet are aiming forward.
Yeah.
You feel less comfortable when your feet are turned out. Interesting. Correlation. Okay, that's part of this whole lesson is correlating. When this happens, this happens. When this happens, that happens. You're not a different person. You have very likely been out of pain for a month, though. Very likely. Maybe 3 weeks, because it took that first week.
Of like muscle soreness.
No, I mean of the symptom that you came to foundation training for.
Yeah.
So a really quick clarification. There are significant and tremendous performance benefits to foundation training. Luckily, accidentally. It is a pain relief program, clinical program, true and true. Like we are from beginning through to the back end focused on accurate, obsessive compulsive level symptom relief. That movement pathway happens to activate and correlate and integrate muscles incredibly. And the performance benefits are just there, here. You're going to walk better. You're going to run better. You're going to swim better. You're going to bike better. You're going to sit better. You're going to stand better. Sleeping better if it's a pain issue that you're not sleeping because of. We can usually help with that significantly.
Yeah, it would make sense because I know for myself, like I get that kind of like deep back pain, psoas kind of pain. And sometimes that'll stop me from sleeping. And then my buddy that I was telling you about that's having the pain, he was saying he's having like a ton of trouble sleeping.
Yeah,
so, that would make sense.
And that sleep pattern perpetuates the pain because you're not sleeping as well. You're not getting rest.
You're not getting the growth hormone release.
So we talked about jujitsu. Before we came in here, I talked to you a little bit about Rickson Gracie. I've had a very amazing introduction to jujitsu through Rickson Gracie. He went on a Joe Rogan podcast a couple of years back and talked about the severity of his back issues, and that led to us being introduced. In fact, Jesse Salas worked with him for a long time. Really delivered foundation training intensely to him, and then I came a few times and worked directly with him as well. And one of the major things that I was actually able to help him with was pain when sleeping. Because what he would do, he has, back pain, sciatic pain, normal pain. But when he would wake up in the middle of the night with pain, he would open his legs apart from each other trying to stretch, like a figure 4 stretch or a clamshell stretch.
I literally do that in bed sometimes.
Don't fucking do that
Really?
ever again.
No
Anybody listening. And I say that with so much intensity and enthusiasm because it's that different. When that pain comes, I want you to roll. So is it right-sided or left-sided?
So what I would say, I've noticed over the last couple of years, I always want to cross my legs in bed.
Good.
So, but it doesn't, like if I'm just laying straight, then I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to like cross my legs.
What I want you
over
to
each
start
other.
doing instead is rotating them at each other.
Yeah.
But much more important than that. So let's say it's your back is hurting you.
But so I can't keep them there.
No.
Like I have to like.
You don't need to.
Yeah, okay.
I want you to turn on your side for a little while and do both sides. You're going to turn on your side with one leg, the bottom leg straight out, the top leg wrapping over it. Does that make sense as I say that?
Yeah.
like a 90-degree knee bend or so?
Kind of like the
approximately?
stretch that you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the key is that top leg is trying to close towards the center of the body.
Yeah.
It's trying to rotate in kind of hard. In fact, if you can get that cramp in the hip, you won't have pain for the rest of the night. The pain comes because of SI joint compression forward. When the hips turn away from center, it pushes the sacrum forward under the meat.
So is that
of the
why you
glute.
get the pain in the front of the hip joint?
It's stretching out this. That's a psoas. That's an iliacus. There's a couple muscles in there that would do that. Most likely the psoas, but it is the discrepancy of the tight, short butt muscles that open the hip versus the over lengthened adductor groin muscles that close the hip.
Yeah.
That discrepancy is what leads to the hips turning out. And that turning out is what leads to psoas and other back pains.
Mm.
So we want to turn in. When your back hurts you in the middle of the night, you want to turn and zip it up. You want to zip everything in. And that zip up tractions the pelvis and allows the sacrum to dive back into its posterior position, its backward position, which is necessary for pain relief. Very much so.
Yeah, okay. So then we've got that first, let's say that first month. what are you going to kind of start to see as you get deeper into this type of work? I love that you call it work too.
Let's work.
It's not training, it's work.
No, it's work.
We're here doing work. Yeah. I like the way you say that.
Training's easier than work.
Yeah.
And it looks cooler too. Our work doesn't look very cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's not fancy. Some of the grill lift, the surf squat, those are cool. Windmill, those are cool looking poses. Most of them are pretty boring looking. They're very simple looking. You're doing a lot more than they look like, but they're very simple. We're a month in. What would you expect to change? At a month in, you should be able to touch your toes for sure if you couldn't before. That type of thing. Like flexibility should be either reined in. A lot of people come to foundation training with way too much flexibility. Gymnasts, dancers, surfers, especially young surfers that can just like flop around and they're always turned out. They got too much motion. Your body's moving too much. You got to rein that in. You got to stabilize. You need structural integrity. So by a month in, you should notice significant improvements in your range of motion, be it more range of motion if you were too tight or stabilized
More
range of motion,
range of
much
motion.
more control.
Yeah.
And a direct correlation to improved range of motion, decreased pain symptoms. That's not my correlation to make. That's your body and your brain understanding. Because that correlation made over and over again is what keeps people doing it.
Yeah.
It's not because you're supposed to do it. It's because it gets you out of pain every time you do it, to the point that you don't have to think about doing it. You just kind of do it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then you don't do it anymore.
Yeah. So what would be like the time suck of a person doing this?
We recommend 10 minutes focused every day.
That's nothing.
It's also a lot. 10 minutes of focusing on movement, if you don't do that on a regular basis, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Break it up into 2 minutes at a time if you need to. But we have a lot of videos that go between about 8 minutes and 25 minutes.
Yeah.
25 minutes of hard foundation training, you'll be in a pool of sweat.
Yeah.
You'll be your body will be exhausted. You're literally pulling your muscles against each other. And I say that over and over because people don't understand it until they're in the pose. And like, why is it so hard? It's like, this is why it's so hard.
Yeah.
You're playing tug of war within your own body.
Yeah.
So at 4 to 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in, I mean, really, the difference of 1 month to 6 months isn't that big, but the difference of 6 months to like a year and a half is significant. 6 months, you're still teaching the pattern. You really are. It takes a year for the pattern to get in there. So at 6 months, you're feeling much stronger. Your movement pattern is hip driven. Your pelvis leads rotations, leads flexion, leads extension. When you walk or run, your hamstrings and glutes are the predominant propellers. And it's all because you've cleaned up your nerve pathways and the pain pathways. At a year and a half to 3 years, you're now like a student of your body. You're now learning. You're not on founders and basic stuff anymore. Those are included, but now you're into like rotational stuff. You're into spiral stuff. You're understanding the pulleys of the body like a student. You're practicing every day, but you're understanding, and you're now able to utilize foundation training without any instruction in the field. I'll give you an example of Brian Fishbook, a guy that came through so I met him as a patient when my first book came out. He heard about it, and he's a mountain rescue in Whistler Blackcomb. Very fit guy. He's about 10 years older than me, so he was probably in his like late 30s, early 40s at the time. Really bad chronic injuries, knees, really bad chronic back. Couldn't get in the helicopters, had to take helicopters everywhere, couldn't get in and out, couldn't carry anybody, couldn't work. Ski patrol, couldn't do any of the stuff he had to do. Within a year, he was good. Within 5 years, so 2017 or so, 2016, he actually came to my certification, and he came because he's like, I need to understand what this is.
Yeah, like why did this do this?
I've been exploring my body since I started this, and I've been he's like, I move everything different now. No matter what I'm doing, I can make it into a foundation training maneuver. And he's like, I had to understand. Okay, cool. Came and understood. He came to visit just as a buddy, maybe 4 years ago. Yeah, my daughter was like 2. So like 4 years ago, same thing. Oh, dude, I just unlocked this. I just unlocked this. I can't believe I'm unlocking this. You start to you get to do what I do. You get to develop this in yourself. You get to understand the process of what it felt like to develop foundation training, because all I had was sensations. There was no educational preparation for this.
Yeah.
No educational preparation for this of any kind. I actually had to very much be insular. I couldn't listen to anybody else. I kept hurting myself. I had to do this myself. And What people get to experience now is the shortcut to all of that. Shortcut takes 5 years. It really does. Maybe one day we'll get shorter than that, but the shortcut takes a long time. But you become such a skilled, that's a weird word. You become extremely in tune with your body to the point that
very aware.
You now own cage theory.
Yeah.
And can apply it to everything. You can play any kind of music you want to with it.
Yeah.
And that's how foundation training works.
Yeah.
And I actually got to so we had there's a company called STARS, which is a helicopter ambulance nonprofit in Canada. They have 6 big locations, and they're badasses. They show up in a helicopter, they take the injured, they take them straight to the hospital, and it's a nonprofit. They reached out to us because they're in crammed helicopters. They're always hurting. They showed us the pictures of the helicopters. And I actually got to talk to Brian, because he does those things, and Brian Fishbook, and he was like helping me to talk to them. I was like, so just give me a heads up. Like, how you doing? What's going on? He's like, bro, it just keeps getting better. I can't believe it. It just keeps getting better. He gave me a couple stories of what was going on. I was just like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. So I don't know. I guess I'm both a good and bad salesman. If I tell the truth about foundation training, people are going to want to try it. If I try to like pretend that it's not as good as I really believe it is, then I'm just going to look awkward and weird. And reality, it's pretty fucking good.
So let's talk about motocross specifically.
Okay.
And dive in a little bit more.
I'll try for disclosure. I don't, other than working with a few of the athletes, I know very, very little about the sport.
Yeah.
But I understand mechanics, and I'll apply that to whatever I can.
I'd be interested to hear what you think about the mechanics as it's applied to motocross, like Chad Reed, Chase Sexton. I'm pretty sure Hayden Deegan, who's one of the up and coming superstars, he's started doing it from that podcast with Chase, actually.
Great.
And then Jet Lawrence, I'm not sure if you've heard of him.
I watched a race that he won recently.
How is his posture?
Yeah, he's very.
What do you see when you see him?
Can I see it? Do you have a picture of him? Can I see it? I can't remember exactly.
Of him, like, riding.
Yeah, just show me a picture. I think so. Let me give my best example. Is it Ken Roxon or Rosen?
Ken Roxon.
Ken Roxon. So I met Ken through Peter. I don't want to give any impression that I have some major relationship with him. I just got to meet him through Peter, and he'd been doing foundation training with Peter for a while.
Yeah.
And I got to kind of be there and tune him up a little bit, you know? But he had a couple posts that went out, and he made the correlation. He would tag foundation training in it because his posture was a founder. It was literally,
that's what I'm saying.
I couldn't improve it.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
When he's on the motorcycle.
Yeah. And Chase, I've seen pictures of Chase.
Same thing.
Exactly. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I was as good of a teacher with Chad. No, I'm just kidding. Chad did. Chad was unreal.
He was in the exact same position when you go back and look at it.
I got to watch Chad with comebacks. Like, we got to see him make the injuries that I saw him sustain. Oh my God. Falling from 20 foot to just the ground. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. There's 2 exercises that I actually developed because of with Chad.
Oh, right.
They became my lateral hinge and a little bit of a change to my windmill exercise. But Chad will remember this very well. He's always had a hip issue, and we would put one foot up on a pedestal and then do these hip hinging exercises. And he would look at me like, what is that? And just do that. And it worked, and it's what I know about motocross is you're moving really quickly, and you have to absorb your body's weight from numerous vectors as quickly as possible without losing speed. Yeah. So you can't have much movement.
Yeah.
And you have to have your weight only enough back that it doesn't lean the weight into the back tire.
Yeah.
So with that, you need to have an extremely strong hip socket and the muscles that surround it. And that hip socket needs to be the furthest thing behind you, by far. If the hips are the furthest thing behind you, it's going to be much harder to flex the spine in the wrong places. It's going to be much easier to sit into the saddle, the glutes, the hamstrings, the adductors. Think of a ham. You slice through a ham and you got the bone, and then all the meat that surrounds the bone. Adductors, hamstrings, glutes, big, thick muscles that surround these. Those are the muscles that stabilize. If those are stabilizing accurately, which is both a press down, a pull back, and a squeeze in, glute, hamstring, adductor. Those keep the knees directed forward like eyeballs. The knees directed forward and not turned out a little bit it's a secret. It's the thing that connects the nervous system to not break and fold. So knees forward, hips back. And then that last lever, the first lever we talked about, the occiput, the base of the skull, allowing the body. So if we're here on a bike, you don't want to be here at the neck. You want to be here at the neck. Strong as a fucking ox. Just like, so every bump isn't doing this. That's the worst thing you could do.
Dude, and that's what sometimes I say, like when I'm trying to go fast, it's like my fucking eyes are vibrating. It's because I'm like...
Yeah, and if you stabilize...
And if you see Jet Lawrence, so I'll just show you a video of Jet.
Something real quick that people can do, anybody can do, get yourself a vibration plate at home. They sell them on Amazon. They just have like an oscillation, just stand on it, it vibrates. You'll find positions that that jolt you and make you rattle you, and then you'll stabilize and draw the hips back and lift the skull, and all of a sudden that rattling is just perfectly placed through muscles. There's no rattling. It's an instant education in stability and a good thing to practice. But it's all about finding the positions that you don't rattle in.
Damn, you just blew my fucking mind.
That's what we do.
Because I can I can fully visualize that.
Yeah,
so
right?
like
You've probably felt it before.
Like this, I don't know how much riding is going to be in this, but this is Jet. Like his posture is insane, and you can.
His neck posture is extremely strong. That's the difference.
Here, talk into the mic. Just
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So watching Jet, the first thing that I saw in him, and you can see it in the guy next to him too, who doesn't do it. Boom. And then as soon as he hit a front bump, one of two things is going to happen. As soon as that front wheel hits, either your shoulder blades are going to let this happen. It's bad. That's weak. See what my neck does? Or your lats are going to engage and it's going to go like this.
Yeah.
And that's what Jet did.
Huh. All right. We're going to find something that's got a bit more riding footage for you.
Yeah, this has been a lesson in motocross and supercross. You'd think I would have tried it over the years. One of the coolest experiences I had was...
I think this is just riding.
We went to a track in Los Alamitos with Chad Reed once, and he just jumped over me a bunch of times. It was really cool. Yeah, his absorption is phenomenal. He doesn't break his shoulder blades forward. He doesn't retract his shoulder blades and squeeze them together. Really? So it allows his lat to take over. Yeah, it's excellent. It's very visible. I mean, yeah, actually... He just landed a huge jump, and it was perfect. His elbows came back, and his back stayed strong. Yeah, that was really cool.
It'd be really cool to like link you up with him. He's only 20, just 20-year-old kid. He just won 22 motos in a row in outdoors.
Oh,
all of them. First rookie
250 or 450?
450.
Oh my god,
rookie season.
Is he a big guy?
It'd be about maybe. Because I'm 6 foot, maybe it's like similar to me, maybe like 5'11" or something like that.
That's amazing. Has anybody else ever done anything like that?
Not in their first year. There's been 2 other guys have a perfect season.
Who's that?
Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart, two big names.
Yeah, James Stewart was really big when Chad was going. I remember his name a lot. I never worked with him, but I remember his name.
So yeah, it's interesting to see, but like Jet's neck posture.
That's it.
It's like Formula One, man. Like
exactly. And the reason that Formula One is so important, do I have to be like this, is because the second your body has G-force against it, if there's a break in the chain, you can't pull back. You're like, you're being pulled into this weak vector hard. Yeah. And it's very dangerous. Yeah. It's very, very dangerous. That rotational vector doesn't occur. Like you're not going around a turn with that force in riding, and you get to angle into it, which is extremely helpful. But in racing, in car racing, they're never having to go through this force, which motocross is nonstop. That lift of the occiput will do more for people than I think they can imagine. And understanding that your shoulder blades need to move away from each other, not towards each other, will do a lot. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like
shoulder blades away from each other, not towards each other.
Because that's one thing I notice when I ride. So my lower half of my body is pretty dialed.
Okay.
That's what I've spent the last, honestly, since 2019.
Congratulations.
Basically. So I can kind of get into that posture.
Okay.
I'd
you
say
get into
founder posture.
Yeah.
And I can feel it when I ride, and it's fairly second nature when I'm riding well. But I still don't have the top half. And I feel like I go into a turn and I just feel like I just collapse,
That's because you have to go up before you compress. Meaning So decompression is all about lifting the rib cage out and back and wide and stretching out the rib cage and stretching the clavicles away from each other and expanding the shoulder blades away from each other and creating that scaffolding space so that those muscles can better contract and stay stable. Muscles hate going from short to shorter. So if you're riding with this neck position, they have your traps, your SCMs, they have nowhere to go. They have nowhere they can go. So all of that jolting is just kind of going through your shoulder joints, through your back. As soon as the leverage is lifted, leverage. Think of that idea.
Leverage is one of the most important concepts in nature.
Yeah, leverage your skull behind you and up.
Who said, give me a lever long enough and I'll move the world?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
One of the oldest and most amazing quotes. I forget who said it, but
so your body,
it's like Archimedes or some shit.
Your body is built on levers, and when they go wrong, they go wrong. When they go right, it's beautiful, beautiful, stable structure. It's incredible how it works. You identified it perfectly. What Jet is doing is he's stabilizing his torso towards expansion, so that when it compresses, it has space to compress. Does he know he's doing it? No idea.
No, I doubt it.
No idea. I have no idea, but he's doing it. And it's something that other riders can learn from without question. And if you're like, what do I do? What do I do? Look at the world in front of you like it smells terribly the whole time you're riding.
Yeah.
And just keep that for now. You'll get better at it. But for now, just keep your nose away from what's in front of you, not towards it. Don't smell your way forward. It smells bad. Pull your nose away from it. Keep going. That's the first start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man. It's so cool that you can just see that instantly in him with like the neck.
It's got nothing to do with riding. It has everything to do with looking at relationships of head and shoulders. When force goes through the body, when something good happens, when force goes through the body, when something bad happens.
Yeah.
And seeing those things over and over and over again makes it very hard not to see them.
So we get into the basic founder position. Mm-hmm. One of the important things that people will teach, like AJ Catanzaro, he's a really great technical coach, Ben Townley, they'll talk about like unlocking the hips. Ryan Hughes, unlocking the hips. Yeah. So it gives you, by being in that correct like founder position, it actually lets the hips swing way more independently than if you've got a rounded spine. Basically.
The reason you'll have a rounded spine is because your butt muscles are squeezing and they're pushing your hips forward.
Okay.
Feel that?
Yeah.
Do that again. Feel it?
Yeah.
Now imagine you're on a bike. Hold, so grab. Now do that clinch.
Yeah.
Now, what they're trying to do with their lingo is say, relax your butt muscles. Allow your hip joints that control the pelvic girdle. So you're here, you're riding, same thing. Now, feel the glute squeeze, go it. Feel it go forward. And now go the opposite direction. You're not trying to pull your glutes behind you. You're actually trying to pull your hips straight down. Try it. Just pull your hips straight down.
Down.
So not forward. That's forward. Hip joint where you're sitting straight down. There you go. And that unlocks the lower back and the psoas muscles.
Yeah, okay.
And that allows absorption through the spine. Back is better, but back is really only there. You don't want your hips back when you're seated.
Yeah.
You want your hips down when you're seated. It's when you stand that the hips go behind you. That's the difference.
Okay.
They're loaded and ready to go behind you by pulling down. They can't go behind you when you're pressing your glutes together, squeezing them, pushing the hips under you forward.
Yeah. And so it makes sense to you then that like the whole unlocking the hips, like great. That lingo kind of makes sense.
I think it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
as long as they're teaching the way to do it correctly, which is to relax the glute tissue and to allow the lower back not to be thrust forward by the glutes, but to instead be lengthened.
And so this is in a seated position.
Seated, standing, anywhere.
So what are the muscles you're trying to contract to do that, would you say?
The adductor muscles along the inner thigh.
Yeah.
You're trying to get your tibialis anterior, which is your shin muscle, to contract. Because that shin muscle is what allows tension through the hamstrings and tension through the back of the legs.
Yeah, so I'm trying to flex that muscle there.
Take your toes, just lift them. Like think jazz toes. And just lift them and spread them. It's not just lifting, it's spreading.
I can feel my hamstrings.
So you feel, exactly. Now even better, try to drop your hips again. Pull your hips down. You'll feel like, oh, okay. It connects.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to stand up, so do this with me, because it all translates from the bike to life.
Yeah.
So don't do this. No arms. Lift the back of your skull. Now your toes are lifting. They're doing that same thing. They're activating until you can feel your hamstrings. Let me know when you can feel them.
Yeah.
Take your arms forward and reach up and over the mic as far as you can and just stand.
Like this?
Yep. Yeah. Feel your glutes and then go back.
Yeah, so it's more my hamstrings than my glutes.
Great. Even better because you're fully in a hinge there. Take yourself back and slowly lower down to the chair. Make sure it's behind you.
So I got like pain in my, not pain, but
Muscle
like
tension.
cramping
Absolutely.
on my
So let's do it for a minute. So on the left side,
Yeah.
so I'm going to talk you through it. Turn the left foot in a little further. Yeah, fix that. Yep, a little further, right there. So hold. Tell me how the tension feels there.
In my back.
Yep, just muscular, bilateral.
Yeah, fine.
Great. Arms like this, like you're holding a grapefruit, and then your elbows go towards center. Your armpits squeeze to get the lats going. Right there. We're going to do what's called an inward anchor. From the outside edges of your foot on the ground, squeeze in like you're trying to wrinkle the floor. Right there. It's going to feel up the groin.
Yeah.
That stops the glute from firing. That allows it to relax. If you were to draw the hips 2 more inches back, you'll feel it load even more. Turn the knees towards you. There you go. That's perfect. Take a big, deep breath, pulling the jet right there. Lift the base of the skull right there. Take 2 deep breaths like that. And it's going to have you feel really different when you sit down. When you sit, lift the toes. Use that reach forward to sit your butt back. There you go. It's all about counterbalance.
That's fucking hard to do.
Welcome. My life is I teach other people and I sweat.
Yeah, you're really in there going through it with me.
Yeah. Oh, this is with everybody. Like I'm feeling it with you the whole time.
That's awesome.
And it's all sensations that I put myself through just countless thousands of times.
Yeah. So moving away then from the motocross stuff, the other sport I'm very interested in is jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
And it's funny. So I trained with a gentleman by the name of Levi Jones Leary, and he's black belt. I don't know that he's won a world championship yet as a black belt. He's still young. But I think he's got second at black belt or whatever. Anyway, he's one of the dudes. I trained with him, and he did a founder basically.
Okay.
For jiu-jitsu. So you're in this like top passing position, and it's toes pointed in because it gives you more of a base. If someone's trying to pull you forward, which if someone's in front of you in jiu-jitsu and they're trying to pull, so then
that allows that position of the toes forward, inward, allows your hips to move back much faster.
Yeah.
No comparison.
Yeah.
The reflex is probably halved.
Okay. So he has
It's very smart.
Yeah, so that's just and he was basically like, all my passing is like toes in, hips back, low center of gravity. So it was just funny.
That's good for your back too. It makes if the exact same movement pattern was done with the toes facing out, you wouldn't be able to turn off the glutes, and the hip movement would come out of your spine.
Yeah. The movement feels nowhere near as good if you do the
different
toes out.
Because the toes in allows your pelvis to pass through the femurs.
Yeah.
Toes out stops the pelvis from passing through the femurs. So
what is specific that you guys do with like combat sports? Is there anything more specific that?
So is it different than normal foundation training? No, it's the application of certain exercises.
Yeah.
For jiu-jitsu specifically, there's so much open, especially you pull guard on somebody and you're in an open leg position, wrapping, and now holding. So you're training the muscles to contract in a very awkward position.
Yeah.
Very different than hamstrings and glutes and adductors are meant to contract. They're actually about like 30 to 40 degrees turned away from center and learning to hold. And that has to be remedied. We have countless jiu-jitsu practitioners that use foundation training. The way that it's remedied is just doing the opposite, which is why FT is so good for it. Is just doing a founder enough? No. Does it help a lot of people in jiu-jitsu? Yeah. What you need to learn for jiu-jitsu is gorilla lifts, windmill exercises, surf squat exercises, kneeling founders, our half kneeling series. Those translate immediately to both more relief and range of motion on the mat and remarkable strength. When your lat connects to the rest of the chain of the groin muscles, the lower legs, and the serratus muscles, this is
so much more powerful.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
I've rolled with a lot of people. I am not a skilled jiu-jitsu practitioner by any stretch, but I'm very strong. And I've been told by each of the people that I roll with, like and Jesse does a lot of jiu-jitsu, same thing. Yeah. You've got kind of ridiculous pulling strength and your
just
base.
Torsion. Yeah.
Your base, like I have a very heavy base. Yeah. I was actually told by the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner that I have a heavy base as he was doing whatever he wanted with me, mind you. But he's like, you strong.
It's funny when you roll with a very, very high level person in jiu-jitsu, you just get completely creamed. But then they're like, oh no, you did good. And I'm like, the fuck? But then the same can be applied for like when I roll with somebody that's not. I'm like, no, you're doing the right thing. It's just I'm not letting you do any of it to be effective, but you are doing the right thing, or you are strong, or you can feel it, you know?
I had Rickson Gracie, when I was helping him with his back issues, put me into a couple positions. My first ever role in jiu-jitsu was with Rickson.
That's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm bigger than he is. Does not matter for a second. He's 20-something years older than me. Doesn't matter for a second. That guy could have done it's crazy when you feel somebody have I didn't like it. It was interesting, and I still do jiu-jitsu. I still train it. But I was blown. You don't understand until you're in the position. Oh, if this guy didn't want to let me go, there's nothing I can do. Yeah,
I'm literally never getting up.
There's nothing I can do. Huh. I thought I was strong. I guess I'm not strong. Oh, okay. Good lesson.
And the other thing too is the braking mechanics work.
Yes.
Like I've broke a dude's arm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they break. They
just and it's easy.
That's one of the best lessons. The way that the body breaks is also the way that it builds. And so you mentioned earlier weakness and strength. Weakness on the front, strength on the back. That's not really how it works. The body's rotational. It's twists. You can have muscles that are really twisted that just feel tighter than anything and really restrict movement.
Because the torsion, the rotation creates like extra torsion. It'd be like lengthening a muscle.
Exactly.
So that's why it would feel.
And
tight.
I love what you're doing.
Yeah, because it's so I'm picturing like I'm picturing a femur, and a knee, and if it's rotated like this, you've just taken the muscle from being this long to being that long.
You have a very awesome understanding of that. That's awesome. That's really good. The way that I teach it, I'm just going to echo what you just said with something that I've just worked with for a while. My fingers are like a capsule. Imagine my thumb to thumb, index to index. All of my fingers have a string attached.
Yeah.
I can shorten the string, lengthen the string, but I can also shorten and lengthen the strings.
Yes.
In the human body, this is how strings and muscles shorten and lengthen.
Yeah.
They counter-rotate, and it takes them out of contractile capacity. And the body learns beautifully to compensate. And in those compensations, we get pains and messages, but it's the compensation. It's the learned pattern that does that. Now, blunt force can hurt us all the time. That's not really what foundation training can help injuries like that, but really it's for those repetitive pattern, chronic type problems. Yeah. And for an athlete that is always getting treated by a doctor for this tightness or that tightness, I want you to start really thinking of rotational spiraling lines as opposed to linear human body. The human body is not linear in any direction. It is very twisted, torsioned, rotated, layered. It's just, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have to pull apart. You have to rotate and pull apart. Rotate, pull apart. That's kind of how it works.
Okay. Yeah, I'm literally never thought about that concept before. But it makes sense how your muscles would get tighter from just simple rotation.
And it also, think of it this way. So for many, many, many years, when anybody would mention the core or core muscles, we would think of everybody, abdomen, and then some surrounding tissue, some back muscles, some obliques, but abdomen. The center of your body being the pelvis and the pubic symphysis, that being kind of where everything is centered, is kind of in rehabilitation, and it's not generally understood. I was on a podcast.
Yeah, people don't really put that much weight on that part of your body.
No, I was on a podcast with a gentleman who's much more experienced in medicine than I am. Doctor that really has been doing it for 30 plus years. He said the biggest takeaway that he got from I've been working with him and his son for a couple months now, trying to just help him with a couple things. He said the biggest takeaway was that the pubic symphysis is the core. And he's like, I can't look at the body without understanding that now. I can't look at that and say, oh, the belly button. No, I can't. It's the bottom of the pelvis. And when you look at it that way, it changes how you look at the body and how you treat it, which is true. So my goal is that everybody starts to look at that where the adductors attach to the bottom of the pelvis, and then the pelvic wing is above it. So right where my thumbs meet, the adductors, the groin muscles attach on either side. Right where that thumb meets, there's this little cartilaginous, little dense disc between called the pubic symphysis. And that pendular swing or rotational swing, that is your center line of gravity. If you want to get low, pull that behind you.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be strong, throw with that and let it control the whip of the body. It's such a good lesson. You feel your body differently from forever once you understand that.
It makes sense though. Like, yeah, I've honestly never thought of it like that, but it does make perfect sense.
I think you kind of have to be a bit of a lunatic to think of it that way after a while.
Yeah.
Like you got to be thinking about it for a while.
Well, you've thought about it a lot.
You just got to kind of keep thinking about it, and eventually like the layers go, and it just doesn't make sense to think of anything else as the center of the human body.
Yeah,
it really doesn't.
Yeah. So is there anything more specific to know about like the martial arts jiu-jitsu side of things?
So yes and no. Grip strength is a huge thing that improves from foundation training.
Oh, really? Why
because
that?
the brachial plexus, which is the nerve endings that go from your fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh cervical vertebra up here.
Yeah.
And then they infiltrate all of the limb muscles, but they also connect to the lats. People don't realize that the muscles that infiltrate here also infiltrate here, and the serratus muscle here, big, strong breathing muscle that keeps your shoulder blades stable during arm movement. So if you're grappling, if you're punching in particular, you need powerful, mobile shoulder blades that never go too far in either direction, and they provide a whip to the arm. Or if you're grabbing, you're not grabbing with your bicep. You're grabbing with your hip.
Yeah.
Not even here. You're pulling your hip where you want to go, and you're so much stronger. Somebody doing this versus somebody doing this.
Yeah, because it honestly all comes down to leverage, right? Did you watch the Super Bowl?
A little bit.
How many times did fucking what's his commentator? Was it Romo or was it Rogers?
I have absolutely no idea, unfortunately.
How many fucking times did he say leverage?
If I had watched it more closely, probably a lot.
He said it a lot. But it's so like leverage. It's almost like leverage and compounding are like the two most powerful forces in the natural world.
I mean, a monkey is half the size of a human and 5 times as strong or so.
Yeah.
Leverage.
Yeah.
And it's not leverage of how they hold something. It's the way that their muscles and tendons are connected to their joints.
Yeah.
So that they have advantageous pulleys. In human beings, there are some people with more advantageous pulleys than others, and they excel in certain sports and certain things. It's not that far of a spectrum. In nature, that spectrum is incredible. Cheetahs, look at the lever that moves you has much more to do with your strength, like the length of that lever and where it connects, than the volume of muscle surrounding it.
Well, that makes so much sense to me. Like, and even if you were mathematically inclined, and you're an engineer, and you're like, yep, lever, fulcrum, like all the mathematical terminology, and you knew the way to do the calculations to get force out of the end of pulling the lever.
Yeah.
You can see by moving 1 millimeter up, 1 millimeter across, 1 millimeter up, like that changes the eventual output that you get at the end of the lever. And that's just basic mathematics. And it's like every single thing that you do in your body is based off that lever moving.
Just watch a figure skater twirl. When the arms go out, they twirl slow. When the arms come in, they twirl fast. It's all leverage and points of movement.
Yeah. Same in jiu-jitsu. It is the leverage of a choke. Like I love a Das choke. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
From the Rutolos, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So like a Das choke is an amazing like leverage type of choke. Because you have all of these complex motions that are coming together, and it's like it's this movement that's with all of your body. It's like not a pull from here.
It's gathering.
Yeah, it's like you're just taking all of these different levers and you're shortening these levers to just squeeze the space out of this tiny little hole that you've made with your 2 arms, basically. So it's like leverage is so applicable there. An arm bar. Like a knee bar is just purely leverage.
I don't care how strong somebody is. If somebody's other part of their body is, if their legs and torso is pulling you like this.
At the very end of your lever.
There's no chance.
Yeah.
The best chance you'll have is pulling your body to it if you can possibly. But you can't because they're probably kicking you away. But it's just jiu-jitsu and other martial arts do a much better job than I understand of violent leverage.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, a guy named Tony Blauer. People in your world, probably some of them know who he is. He's an incredible guy in the self-defense world. He has a system called Spear, which is all about the body reacting and then building off that reaction and reflex to protect yourself, your family. But oh shit, where did I just lost myself? Hang on, I'm sorry.
Leverage. Yeah.
Wait, no, there was one other part. We went a little further. I started talking about Tony, and it's his thing. Oh, I don't want to mess up. What was the last thing we just left?
We're just talking about like using leverage and
martial arts, the spear. Oh, Tony, I'm sorry if you're listening to this. I was about to say something good that you said that I now can't remember.
That's all right.
It was a good line, and it was from him.
We'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back to me.
But the same's true in motocross. You know, like I look at Jet Ride now, and he has a brother that's a couple years older than him. All of his levers maybe an inch shorter.
Wow. And the different power and efficiency.
Yeah. Just looks different.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it makes so much sense in motocross because like you talked about, if you want to drop your center of gravity, then you need to put your hips further away.
Yeah.
So what does your CG do on a motorcycle if you can get your hips 1.5 inches, 2 inches back further than the next person, but still reach and be in the same position? You know, you're having more. There's more potentiality of like exerting a force over the motorcycle.
If you want your bike to travel as far and as fast as possible, your body has to work to collaborate with the bike's shocks, not work against the bike's shocks. Because you want to ultimately make the amount of rise and fall of the shocks as minimal as possible, so all of that trajectory is forward momentum. You really want as little slowing and friction as possible. So the more your hips back, broad lats, strong hips can take the absorption, the better you're probably going to ride overall and like perform overall. The person that is not collaborating with their shocks is taking the weight out in their neck. They're squeezing the shoulder blades. Their knees are thrusting forward every time they're hitting a bump. That's a big, big mechanical difference than the giant hip joint taking the vast majority of all of that force by pendularly swinging behind you.
Yeah. Now, so there's been a bunch of surfers as well. Obviously, like we talked about Jack, but there's been like a whole group of surfers that have got into founder training. What do you think that they see in it as well? Is there anything kind of like specific in there, do you think?
Or
it's the same sort of stuff?
It's the same reason.
Yeah.
They don't ride bikes and their trajectory is not forward. It's sideways.
And it's a different stance.
Totally
kind
different.
of on the side.
But we have a bunch of hockey players and baseball players and tennis players and golfers. It's got nothing to do with the sport. It's got everything to do with how the human body is most mechanically efficient, regardless of what it's doing. The hips are the primary mover. In somebody, we'll use Jack for an example. The first person I started working with in surfing was Lakey Peterson at 14 years old.
Yeah.
The
Santa Barbara.
Probably 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. When she was like a baby.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And then I got to work with Kelly Slater, and I actually trained Dane Reynolds for 3 years, which was awesome. I think I'm the only person who's ever trained him or done anything.
Yeah, that's
and like
insane.
in his prime, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Got to work with Dane a lot. I've worked our trajectory into surfing is long, far, and deep.
Yeah.
And it's only getting better. We have become a part of surfing culture, which is just, I mean, as a surfer, it's just so cool. It just makes me like, I love that. That's better than any, like you were talking earlier, like what's business fine? Like, let us keep growing in sports I love and communities I love and respect. Let our work rise as the cream of the crop in the futures of those sports. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, we've got a lot of, we have, I don't want to like sit here, like, I don't want to, like, we have a lot of surfers, and the reason it works is it's not because of this or because of that. It's because when the hips protect the spine and the knees and the ankles, when you learn not to drop your back knee in like this little kind of sissy lever, and instead keep it strong and use your hips.
Drive it through the water.
When you learn to paddle and pop up with a big spine instead of a small spine, when you learn to dominate your paddling from up above instead of dominating at your traps, keeping you learn efficiencies in the water that are just not really available to you unless you are extremely naturally gifted and literally can't improve from your natural gifts, or unless you learn this mechanism. Yeah. One of the things I do to every surfer I work with is I make them squeeze their knees together the whole time they're paddling to protect their shoulders and their necks.
Why does that make a difference?
For all the reasons it does when I anchor you together, for all the reasons it opens up those nerve
because
pathways.
you basically just, the adductors are then,
But really what it's doing is it's stopping you from squeezing two compression points, the back of the neck and the back of the lower spine. When you squeeze your knees together, it tightens that pubic symphysis. It pulls the center of gravity toward the femur, and it stops it from being able to move with the spine.
Yeah.
And it forces the spine to do its work, protecting it while it does its work. Yeah. It makes the shoulders, everything's longer in that scenario where the adductors are squeezed together. So when you're paddling, your lat gets super long. Your neck is able to stay back. It's just, there's certain levers, and that's one. When you're paddling, keep the knees together on the surfboard. Huh. It's just that simple. Keep your feet behind you as you normally touch your toes if you want to be slick. But keeping the knees together, not even squeezing that hard, keeping them together is very fundamental to shoulder health.
Yeah. It's funny. I surfed for years and I just feel like I never got fit. So, like paddle fit. Like my neck always fucking hurt. My back always hurt. And it's, you have to learn how to be in an anatomically correct position.
If anybody that surfs wants to see some of the best surf training, and he puts a lot of stuff on like Instagram and all that, it's Kahea Hart, Hawaii Surf and Performance. He has foundation training mixed with very high level surf performance, and he's a high level foundation training guy. He's been part of our world for almost since the beginning. Been out to Hawaii countless times to work with him. Jesse lives on the North Shore next to him, so they train together constantly. It's pretty good deal. Pretty much every surfer that's won in the last while has gone through Kahea. It's pretty ridiculous. He's top level as they come. But if you want to see he's got some paddling tutorials on his Instagram. He's got some pop-up tutorials. He's got some tutorials that will help any of your users that surf, you included, understand an immediate mechanical shift to improvement. Immediate. 6 minute, 1 minute, 60-second video, whatever it is. You'll be able to understand this little tip from him that will change your surfing. Yeah. Same with Brad Gerlach. If nobody knows Wave Key, dude, go on Wave Key. Brad Gerlach did to surfing what I did to foundation training. Huh. He is a biomechanics guru when it comes to surfing. I say that with full confidence. Yeah. I love Brad. I love, like, one of my best friends in surfing world by far, just one of the greatest guys. And Brad and I think have a kinship because of what we do in our sports, or I do this in the movement world. He does this in the surfing world. He can break down any moment of any movement on a surfboard perfectly. And in a repeatable, that's the key. Can I do it again and feel the same thing? Yes. Wave Key does that really nicely. Anybody looking to improve surfing, I don't get anything from it except I love Brad. Wave Key is unreal.
That's epic. Yeah. So your wife wrote this book, Shaping Your Baby's Foundation. Yeah. Tell me about that. Because that sounds quite interesting to like the patterns that you create when you're young follow you around for the rest of your life. So my wife, she spent her entire life sitting on her knees and like sitting full
flexion,
full cross-legged. Like, so her hip mobility, she does jiu-jitsu as well.
She's too far.
Oh my God. It's out of control.
That's the rein in.
Yeah.
We got to rein in.
So she would be on that end of
we would be pulling her back. You don't want too much range of motion. Yeah. You want to have a nice proportion of strength and flexibility. Yeah. Not too much of either, unless your goal is to be a strength athlete. Or
there's some applications in jiu-jitsu though, where, so like for me, I'd be interested to get your take on this. Like when I'm actively rolling, I can be so insanely flexible, but it's like, I would say to people, like, I don't feel like my muscles are this flexible. I just feel like my joints are just going there. Like I'm so in this, like I need this range of motion right now. Yeah. And so like I can literally touch my heel to my head when I'm on my back, like kind of retaining my guard and like the inversions and stuff that I can do. But it does not feel good for my body.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And I wake up every day feeling like I've been hit by a fucking bus. And I'm actively trying as I get older to not roll in that way.
You gotta, before you roll and after you roll, because you're gonna roll how you roll. Before you roll, zip everything up. When I say zip everything up, I mean internally rotate the femurs, spread the heels. All your stuff is about to open the other direction aggressively. So hit it hard. Yeah. So that neutral feels a little different. Neutral will feel a little inward after that. Yeah. Hit it really hard. My kneeling founder, one of the best exercises for jiu-jitsu by far, because it stabilizes your lower spine and sacrum against the adductors that you're about to overstretch. It takes the hamstrings completely out of the equation.
Yeah, okay.
Kneeling founder, super important. And then the gorilla lift. You are about to have a big open stance. We need to find that same stance, open legs, open angle. We're not turned in the gorilla lift. We're turned out. We're pulling the hips back as far as we can and deep squatting with a huge outward push, opening the hip joints. So instead of the adductor groin muscles getting that, the hip joint is being aggressively pulled apart. So when you're going and rolling, it's already been opened up.
Yeah.
It's not going to get opened up aggressively from the movement.
Yeah.
When you're done rolling, whatever you do, when you're done rolling, you lay on your belly and you lay on your back and you do supine decompression and prone decompression. Just those two. You're worked. You're exhausted. They will zip up the neural and spinal alignment without taxing the muscles that you've just beat up. So you tax the muscles in the warm-up, tax the muscles in the workout, recover the position only in the come down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife's an example of a person that got this crazy range of motion based on just a thing she did her whole life. And her mum used to say, don't sit like that, don't sit like that, don't sit like that. But yeah, I don't know anybody that has more and she's 5.
Is it W sitting where the knees are in, the heels are out? Or the feet, the toes are out?
Yeah, and so she would sit like, she can sit on her on her heels, that, and then she'll cross her legs, but just completely flat.
Yeah.
So like her hip joints are completely out, and she's 5'10", like
so she's tall.
She's tall too, so it's like long,
Yeah.
like long levers, you know. But yeah, so she developed that skill as a baby, and it was just this muscle pattern. And
well, it's not a skill. It's not a skill. It is a stretching of ligaments, plain and simple. And you have to rein those. You can't rein the ligaments in. Once a ligament is stretched, you can surgically repair it. But what you can do is ligaments are fail-safes for tendons and muscles. Tendons and muscles move joints. Ligaments are there for when those tendons and muscles fail, like a barrier.
Yeah.
Once the ligaments are stretched out, you don't have that barrier to the same degree. So you have to maintain muscle tone so that the tendons are acting as that physical barrier. That's what I mean when I say rein in the range of motion. And she learned that skill or capacity by just doing it as she developed. She developed into it. The beauty is within a couple of weeks, the body doesn't want to do that. So within a couple of weeks, it will rein that in if you practice the movements. She's the person there's something called integrated hinges, which is basically practicing the founder position in different stances, back and forth counterbalancing, back and forth, training the pattern, and then adding an inward and outward anchor to stabilize the iliotibial band on the outside or the inner adductor kind of center of gravity line on the inside, whichever one we need to add stability to, probably both. You add that isometric into the pose. And you're training stability. You're kind of going to the end range of the motion and then pulling back very slowly, going not quite as far to the end range, pulling back really slowly, and just repeating that until you sort of reverse engineer healthier range of motion from excessive.
Yeah. So what would so you read this book, you get Shaping Your Baby's Foundation. What are you hoping to learn in that? And then what's the thing that you are trying to develop in a child?
Great. So that is, Jen is a specialist pediatric early intervention specialist, physical therapist. So she would work with kids in their first very early. That book that she wrote is for the first year of life, pretty exclusively. So it's for new parents. Will it work later in life? Absolutely. But it's really to help parents hit and excel through every physical milestone their child is supposed to hit, because in those milestones are exactly the developmental capacities for the next milestones.
Yeah.
And Jen has broken this down like encyclopedic. So about 75 to 80% of the book is for the baby and to guide parents exactly. I mean, you can thumb exactly what to do. It's like 800 pages long or something like that. And so that's really important. You help with tummy time, with super important stuff. Your baby's in a car seat. You have no idea how many times we've looked in a car seat and you just see this.
Yeah.
And this is how this kid is going to get through its first few years of life. And it's like, put a fucking bumper there, man. Roll up a towel. Come on. And it's little simple things like that she shows you how to bumper, how to do all these different things in very easy, practical ways that don't cost anything. And for the parents, the other 20% or so of the book is Jen and I got together and we teach the parents how to use your babies to strengthen yourselves, to feel better. You have a baby now. Everybody thinks you're going to get in worse pain. You can use that first year of life to get yourself stronger than you can ever imagine, using these movement patterns with your baby, understanding how to hold your baby better, with your body, and also hold your baby better so that it feels better to the baby. If you're feeling good and strong, they're feeling better. So shaping your baby's foundation is like the developmental strategy for the first year or two of life. I think any parent, any new parent would benefit from it. There's different types of parents. Some parents are like, it is what it is. Development happens. You can't change it. Some parents are like, no, you can really nurture your baby into some incredibly epigenetic stuff where they're very healthy, they're very strong, they're very smart, they're very agile, they've got some real advantages in life. That's the families this is for.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't have kids yet, but
get yourself some kids.
We're working on it.
It's fun. That's the best part. So Rodney Dangerfield said that. You know, the best part of making kids, the best part of having kids is making them.
Practicing. We're practicing. But I mean, I think that all the time. I'm like, I'm just gonna want to build like this little fucking savage. Yeah. Just like you get this opportunity to, and especially now in the information age, like there's so much amazing information out there. Like even just to, like, I have shit posture. Like it just wasn't a thing that was like a priority in my life until I was an adult. And I'm like, fuck, my back's rounded, my shoulders are full, my neck, like I just don't have great posture. And it's like, you could teach, like that's now something that I'm going to have to spend a lot of time actively trying to correct. And it's like, you can just have a kid that has great posture that they're going to go into sport and they're going to do naturally better at sport than they would if they didn't have good posture. They don't have to go to any extra classes. They don't need any extra tuition. It's just they get past the football. They're standing up straight. Like they're in the
They
spot.
get it.
Like Jet Lawrence.
It's in the nerves.
Yeah. Jet is not trying to have this perfect posture when he rides. It's just that he's that guy. Like whatever.
I bet you his parents have good posture.
Yeah. I mean, I'd wonder.
You pay attention to what's around you as a kid.
Yeah.
You really do. And a lot of a parent responsibility is like, if you see your kid like this, I have a term. It's not ridiculous. We don't overdo it over the top. We know that I know I'm a movement person. I know my wife's a physical therapist. We take that into account. We're not trying to be obnoxious.
Yeah, you don't want to go over the top.
We just say, if Sunny's my older daughter, if Sunny is sitting in a shitty position for too long, not immediately, but for too long, hey babe, sit strong. She knows exactly what that means. It doesn't mean be perfect. It just means sit up. And if your legs are like, if you're like this, it just means like take up a little space in your body.
Yeah.
And it's not, we don't punish them for that stuff ever. We just mimic, or we show them. We call out when they're doing something, not like you're doing this wrong, but like, hey, do you feel how you feel right now? Watch how much better you can feel just by doing this, doing the same thing, reading a book, but feeling better.
Yeah.
They understand stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, Jen is she's much more focused on the kids than I am. She's full on with them, 99% of the time. I am there all the time, but like we're homeschooling.
Really there.
We homeschool. She's just always there. She breastfed our first daughter until 4 years old. Our second one is a year and a half, still breastfeeding. So like she's just, she's full on.
Yeah. But
for parents that are trying to learn stuff or help their kids with posture, the most important thing is not what you say, it's what you do. Plain and simple. Kids mimic their parents.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that movement patterns are genetic and stuff like that, and injuries are genetic. They're very rarely genetic or congenital. They're almost always mimicked. You move how your parents moved.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying not to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it makes complete sense. It's funny too. I got a friend and he went to a private school in Sydney. It was like one of the most expensive schools that you could go to in I believe in Australia. Wow. And the guy just has the fucking best posture.
They had etiquette stuff. They
were
stuff,
just very, very, very on it.
It should be taught from kindergarten on in playful ways, but in middle school and high school, it should be taught at the beginning of every single PE class. A minute or two on breathing and posture. And that would that would change kids' lives. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Oh, we're going to go on the track. We're going to spend a minute breathing, making sure our feet work, making sure our legs work. Then we're going to go on the track. Yeah. We're going to climb the rope. Hey, here's how your lats work. Here's how you squeeze against the rope with your adductors to help your lats work better. There's reasons that certain looks look a certain way, and there's very few people. We've been contacted by a number of teachers over the years that want to get a foundation program into their schools. You can only do it via YouTube. It's the only, because there's so much bureaucracy and
there's so many
you
steps
can't.
that
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Make good YouTube videos and tell them about them.
So you wrote a book and the foreword is by Chris Hemsworth.
Yes.
Great Aussie.
How
did that come about? It's got to be a cool story there.
It's actually kind of a funny story. It shows my paying attention to pop culture. So Chris called me. He got my number from Kelly Slater.
Okay.
I mean, I'm done, you know,
Yeah,
life's
yeah.
going good.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those moments. It was like 2013, 14,
Yeah.
something like that. And I get this call from an Australian. I'm like, okay, I have a lot of Australian friends, and I heard you're really good with back. Blah blah blah. Been practicing this stuff. It's really working. I'd love to. You know, I'm going to be in America. I'd love to meet you. I'm like, oh hey, love to. Yeah, hey, what? Who are you? Oh, my name's Chris. Oh, hey Chris. Yeah, I came from Kelly Slater. Oh, cool. Okay, so you a surfer? Yeah, I'm a surfer. I'm like, okay, yeah. What do I need to know? He's like, have you seen Thor? Like, yeah. He's like, that's me. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, that Chris.
I'm like, oh, that Chris. And I don't know. I honestly, the only person I've ever been really starstruck around is probably Kelly Slater. Honestly, of everybody, I don't think anybody else.
He's such a GA.
There's nothing. There's nobody like him. I'm so impressed.
There really is not. He's an alien of a person.
I'm so impressed by what he's. Not even take surfing out of it. The guy's 50 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's the 50-year-old dude that you were talking about before.
Yeah,
he's the guy.
Oh my god. Well, I honestly, and I also believe keeping your expectations within reason. I don't know that I would consider Kelly a mentor because I consider him almost an unattainable level of of capacity. Really, he's a very impressive human being. But Kelly introduced Chris. Chris had been using my YouTube videos and he wanted to go further. They had been helping. So we set up a couple sessions to meet him in person. And I don't know if this is smart or not, but my girlfriend, Jen, who was my girlfriend at the time, I just brought her with me. Like, oh, we're going to go meet Chris Hemsworth. I'm like, wait a second. Shit.
Why did
this was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
He's literally, and I'm not kidding, the day that I met him, the first day I met him, he had just been called the world's most handsome man on GQ. And the magazine was on the table that we were sitting at talking. Fuck you, Chris.
yeah.
I see the power move. Long story short, Chris sent Luke Zaki, who's his really good friend, trainer, right-hand guy. Luke came through my certification course. He started delivering foundation training with him. They travel with it. They go everywhere with it. I was writing that book, and Chris and I had a really strong relationship, especially when we were like working more together. Luke had come through the cert. I was like, you know what? I wonder if Chris would be into this. He wrote me the sweetest forward. Just no problem, no questions asked. Didn't think twice about it. Not only that, but like wrote a very heartfelt one that he wrote, and it was really cool. I've written 3 books, and I've got forwards from Lance Armstrong, Chris Hemsworth, and Jeff Bridges.
That's awesome.
And Jeff Bridges is actually my longest term of the well-known patients. I've been working with him for over 12 years, almost 13 years now.
Yeah, okay.
And have seen him get stronger and stronger and stronger through COVID, through cancer, into age 74. I just saw him in November in Santa Barbara. We did a whole training session together. If you want it, you can see it on the app. We have a 30-minute workout with Jeff Bridges on the app. And you can see he's the strongest 74-year-old you'll probably see in a long time. Usually 8-point planks, archers, doing exercises that are very hard for young people. And he's been doing them with me you can see somebody that's been doing this for years, how well they do it, even at 70. And Jeff, when we're talking, he's like, I hate working out. This is the only, I hate this stuff. I love it, but I hate it. He's very real.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Again, foundation training has really only grown through word of mouth, and those guys did me like a lifetime solid, you know, and they just put their names on the brand, basically, on the work.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like what a good business is, or that's what it's like I always try and say, whenever I'm doing like sponsorship deals, whenever I'm doing like partnerships, whenever relationships, it's like win-win-win. Like that's what you kind of like need to go for. I feel like that there's like a magic triangle that if you can make it win for you, make it work for the other person, and then make it work for other people, that's when it's like, because if it's just a win-win, it's just that feels like almost like you're conspiring in a sense, you know?
I've never had any kind of like financial relationship with any of these people. I've just basically been like, hey, I really helped with your back. I want to get the word out. Are you open to this? And they're like, yeah. Jeff was really funny. Jeff had just gone through a lot. He had gone through cancer and COVID together.
What's his background?
Jeff Bridges. He's, you ever seen The Big Lebowski, the dude?
Oh,
that's the dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's Oscar-winning, world famous actor.
Yeah, he's the man.
But coolest celebrity I've ever met.
Yeah. Okay.
Coolest.
That
most
makes sense.
cool. I've smoked a lot of pot with Jeff Bridges. Sorry, Jeff. I love you, Jeff. I know. But
I feel like the dude.
I love you.
Like, I feel like people know the dude smokes.
That's our relationship. We used to, for many, many years, we would just like go on hikes and smoke pot and then use the sauna. Like, this is ridiculous. ridiculous.
That's unreal.
But so
So
it's
he's
always
74.
He's
right
74.
now. Fuck.
And he just got through.
What a great movie, The Big Lebowski.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
He just got through cancer and COVID together.
No
He
way.
had them. He had COVID. No, I'm sorry. He had cancer, really gnarly, stage 4, really gnarly, lymphoma. And when he got out of it, I'm sorry if like, this story is available by him telling it. By the way, you can go listen to him say it much more. I'm not like outing anything. But Jeff had gone through cancer. They depleted his immune system completely through chemotherapy. He got home from the hospital for like a day, and then he had an email from the hospital saying, "You have to come back. The blood transfusion we gave you turned out COVID positive, and you don't have an immune system." So he went back in hospital for a long time, really gnarly. Thought he was going, really gnarly. But he pulled. Not only did he pull through, he is so positive. I remember talking to him on a face, a shaved head or bald head, and thought he was going. All he would talk about is how good life was, how good everybody was, how kind everything is, how just an amazing human. Like talk about mentors. That's another one. Jeff, I got lucky enough to spend enough time to him to learn from him, and I have gotten lessons about being a father more than anybody else from Jeff Bridges. About being a dad to 3 girls. I've got 2. He's got 3. He's been married to the same woman for his whole career. If there's anybody that could have gotten anybody, and he's been married to Sue for a whole time. He's just this amazing human. He's just this unreal human. Yeah, feel very lucky for that one.
I love that. I just got to record on this camera again. We're pretty much at 3 hours, mate. So we'll sort of start. We'll start winding her down.
We're at 3 hours. Wow,
it's been unreal.
Wow.
It's been it's been fascinating to just learn more about it. I'm definitely I think this is like the kick I needed to really get.
Well, I'll set you up after this. I'll send you some cool info on it. I'll make sure you have what you need.
Yeah, awesome. Because it's been something on my mind for a long time. You know,
you live down here in this area?
For the time being, we move around a little bit.
Same.
Like we'll go back to. We spent a bit of time in Dubai.
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever been there?
No.
Oh, it's beautiful.
No. Wow.
Yeah, I love it there.
That's cool.
So we'll go there for. I think we'll probably be there for like a month or 2. We'll do a little bit of time in Europe, and then some projects in New Zealand, and then back to Oz, and then back here. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're back here, if you can ever figure out a time to work with Jesse, because he's here a lot. He's working with Dr. G and his patients periodically. Jesse lives on the North Shore of Oahu, but he comes to this area, like here in North County, San Diego, pretty frequently.
Yeah.
I'll get Jesse and you connected so you can do like a really intensive session with him.
Yeah.
And you'll love it.
Yeah. I mean, I hope. Yeah. I know. I can't personally speak to it yet because like I said, I dropped the ball. But yeah, just the people that I know that have invested some serious time in this, it's you can see it in them.
Yeah.
And it's such like just your posture. Everything starts with your posture. It's levers.
And people think that good posture is like having good posture. No, good posture is the ability to get into any position you want to and pull yourself out of it. That's good posture. It's the ability to basically have a structural integrity and a capacity to move wherever you want to move, and to pull yourself out of that movement without having to push yourself up and stuff like that. It's the ability to just use the limbs that are necessary for the job and none other. That translates into everything from brushing your teeth to doing work in an office to picking up kids to driving a car to motocross. It's crazy. It's crazy how much it translates to.
So what excites you going forward? Like, how much have you still got to learn, do you think?
I mean, that's actually a great question.
Because, all right, so you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know pretty much all the moves.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, the more you know, the more you don't.
So I would start, yeah, for me,
it's not like you're going to rediscover a new system. It's like, it's there.
Yeah.
But it's like.
Now it's about efficiencies.
Yeah.
So
how can I get the 5 years to 3 years? And then,
it's not how fast can I get there anymore. It's how quickly and well can I get somebody else there. For me, what I'm in my own personal body, this might be a little bit revealing, and people, I hope nobody loses respect for this stuff, but you gotta know how this works. One thing I look forward to all the time, I train a lot in foundation training, but very rarely with other people because I like to train when it's quiet. I smoke sour diesel pot, which is the best movement strain I have ever felt. And I have a little bit, enough to keep me going and feel the things I need to feel. And it's like going into the discovery lab, even 15, 16 years into it.
Yeah.
It opens up doors to sensation that are hard to get to
Oh,
otherwise.
that's so true.
And it's also, by the way, that's what I used throughout this process was to sense. Like I've never been a drinker. I don't do any of that. I smoke a little pot.
Yeah.
And what it does to get your brain into your body is
it's
extraordinary.
insane, yeah.
And I'm a very high. I don't get lazy. I want to do stuff. I want to like cross the bridge. I go, shit, there's no bridge. I got to build a bridge first. Then I want to cross it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's kind of how I feel with this stuff. But for me, the building of the bridge is so much more fun than crossing it.
Yeah.
And that's what every foundation training poses is. It's like a bridge that I built to get to the next spot. But like, I don't think I've built, I don't know how many bridges I've built, but I see like this future of understanding correlations of other systems in the body to pain. Seeing this work, one of the biggest things I want to do is get major research done on foundation training. We have minor research done. We worked with Los Angeles County Fire Department. We got a really cool beta test done with them. We got amazing results in lung volume and grip strength and pain management and mood. Really cool with across several recruitment classes. Their captain at LA County Fire, Evan Halquist, is on our core education team. He's we call him the Golden Boy of foundation training. He's just a stud, amazing guy. He works for LA County and also works for FT. Or works with FT, and he was there kind of putting all these studies together, and we got some amazing information and data. That was done in, I think, 2019. We're now trying to get into much more scholastic style double-blind studies and really get this tested by people outside of our organization, as long as the work is taught and delivered by somebody in the organization. So our goal is to basically get foundation training done as well as possible, tested against any other mechanism of pain relief, from pills to surgeries to other modalities of movement. But really, I want to test us against painkillers, against pain. Our biggest adversary is Advil, Tylenol. People in the movement community, they're our friends. We collaborate with them. We're looking at the same goal. So I want to see the rehabilitation and health community start to look like collaborative efforts among the movement and fitness worlds, and to look at those collaborative efforts starting to take aim at the competitors, which are unnecessary pain pills, opioids. I can't tell you how many people, this is huge, not just me, but our instructor community has gotten so many people off of prescription opiates for pain. It's ridiculous, and continues to.
That's the Lord's work right there.
You can't break a pattern by feeling bad. You have to feel great in what you're trying to do to break the pattern. Foundation training gives these people an opportunity, instead of dissociating with an opiate, to associate with their pain, to feel it, control it, feel better. Feel it, control it, feel better. Advil, Tylenol, feel it, don't feel it.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no autonomy there. There's no vector of learning. There's no skill development. There's no camaraderie with yourself of saying you did a good job.
Band-Aid.
It's a fucking Band-Aid. And it's a stupid Band-Aid that goes through your liver and your other organs. Messes up the phosphoric acid in Advil totally doesn't destroy. Fucks with your gut biome, fucks with the lining of your gut. People don't think about the things we take into our body. Somebody says to me, you're like a snake oil salesman. Doesn't happen very often, but every now and then somebody will say, you're talking about this because you sell it. Okay, great. What do you know about that shit you put in your body?
Literally nothing.
Yeah, because I know everything about foundation training.
Yeah.
What do you know about Advil or Tylenol or whatever you're taking? What do you know? Can't even spell half that shit.
Well, the crazy thing too, man. So my wife doesn't take anything.
Cool.
Like she's fucking gnarly. And even when she gets a headache, she'll pretty much never take any pain meds, right? So I gave her I get migraines, and I think it's got a lot to do with my neck and the positioning of my neck, right? And then you mix training, some dehydration, one kidney, I get migraines. And I gave her one of my headache tablets the other day because she
probably hated it.
It was terrible. Like she had a terrible headache, and she got to that point where she needed it. And she was like, what the fuck did you give me? So like it puts into perspective someone like me that takes them every, and this is just a Excedrin migraine. So this is
it's caffeinated.
Exactly, yeah. But so she was like, this is fucking crack. So
it is.
It's like when you don't take stuff.
Yeah. You know when I used to take that stuff? Before I knew foundation training, and I took it all the time.
Yeah.
All through undergraduate.
And you don't even feel it. You just like it does the thing that it's supposed to do.
Yeah, you don't feel it.
But
exactly.
But you don't, if you do it all the time, you get numb to like how gnarly that shit is. So like my wife, who never takes anything, takes one fucking had an Excedrin that you could buy at a gas station, and she's like, whoa, this is not cool.
Yeah.
So it's like we're just on the reg. Like how many people are just taking this shit like just to get through their day. Like, fuck, I take ibuprofen every day. It's like,
I took ibuprofen.
this is not cool.
From my freshman year of college in 1999 through probably 07 when I started really getting this down. So through graduate school, through college, about 7 years, I would take most days Advil to be able to sleep. Most days, at least 400 milligrams at night. Like pretty much always.
That's so fucking bad for you.
I couldn't sleep otherwise. I just couldn't sleep. Well, probably I've been trying to heal my gut biome for about 10 years, you know, and I continue to, but it's an effort. Our adversary is pain management as a status quo. The prime kind of, not villains, because sometimes you need that stuff.
Yeah,
but the prime offenders are the opiate world.
Yeah.
They are offering a number of, I don't know if people know this, the only country that uses opiates, the only one, United States. You pretty much can't get those drugs in other countries because they're so bad. They're banned.
Yeah, I mean, well,
there's maybe one or two others.
You can get some in Australia, but it's like way harder.
And it's probably a very filtered out down.
And the dosages are so much smaller.
Yeah, there's no, we are
there's no Oxycontin.
Walking a
There's
line.
no Oxycontin in Australia or Oxycodone, like none of that shit.
That's what I'm saying. You can't, the concentrations we use of those drugs are American.
Yeah.
And very stupid. It's actually, we're going to look back on certain things, or the generations after us are going to look back on certain things. One of those things, like we look back on lobotomies as a very stupid science in medicine, and leeches and bleeding out.
Yeah, you're
just,
like, how the fuck are we doing
Are
that?
you really?
Yeah.
Trephining, where they you know, or I'm sorry, no, lobotomies where they dig out your, like, they thought this was a great idea.
Yeah.
So one day we're going to look back on opiates as like a destroyer of a society.
Oh man. There's like, you can look at cities like San Francisco. You can look at cities like Portland. You can look at these places. It is a fucking zombie town, man.
So weird.
Like so many of America's major capital cities is just a fucking zombie
it is
land.
the cities mostly. It's the places where people congregate and
yeah, but I think nowadays you're getting people. So like, I've been watching a bunch of documentary stuff lately on San Francisco.
Yeah,
and what's happening there. Vancouver as well.
Really,
Vancouver's legalized all drugs.
Yeah.
So, or decriminalized. Sorry, I shouldn't say legalized. But and what you're finding, and there's in same as in San Francisco, there's drugs now like this thing called Trank that people are taking. And
I've seen videos of that. So they're just like standing.
Yeah.
And just it's a trip. Looks like a.
But people are going there because they have these drug addictions and they have these opiate problems. They can't get the opiates. So they're like, well, fuck, let's just go to, like, I'm a drug addict now. Like, I need to go to the place to get the drugs.
Yeah, the Sackler family behind opiates has absolutely evilly put money before the lives of Americans and other people.
Yeah.
And somehow they're still legal. We know how fucking bad they are. They're still legal.
We know why they're legal. Because of lobbyists.
Yeah, money.
Yeah. America's also the only country in the world that has fucking lobbying.
Oh, if we get too good at taking people out of back pain, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
we got to walk the line.
That's what
not everybody's going to get better. Some people really need opioids.
Yeah. That's what my dad used to say. Like, my dad's high school not even fully, didn't even graduate, finished in year 10, got an apprenticeship. Like, my dad's not an educated person, but he has that old school street smart wisdom, and he'd always say there's just not a lot of money in healthy people.
There's not. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
a lot of money in sick people.
Yeah. No, I don't want to demonize the pharmaceutical industry because a lot of pharmaceuticals are life-changing miracles.
Yeah, for sure.
Pain management. This is a statement I've made a number of times, and I'm thankful that I get to make it here too. The reason people are in pain is not because they don't have enough pain chemicals in their body or pain management chemicals in their body. Your body has natural opiates called enkephalin. Your fucking body makes opioids. It makes the thing they're trying to mimic when it needs it. When you start taking that stuff when you don't need it, you build up a tolerance to your own. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So I am a very firm believer that most people that are looking for chemical pain management should look at cannabis and should look at the endogenous cannabinoid system, its makeup in the body, how Tylenol and other painkillers mimic this natural pathway, and that's how they relieve you of pain. but you have this CBD, CBG, CBN, THC, all the terpenes. I know this is off topic, but it's something I very strongly believe in.
I'm with you, to be honest.
I believe very strongly in this. We have a symptom relieving medication in the form of a plant that should be, it's becoming more widely available. There's a lot of people out there that booze to dissociate themselves. You'd be so much better off globally to dissociate yourself in the same way by taking a toke or having an edible than you are with the alcohol, the requirement of alcohol dehydrogenase, the breakdown of that alcohol into even more sugar than like carbohydrates break down into, the subsequent dehydration of the body and the organs, the challenge on the actual lining of the esophagus, lining of the tissue
Plus
in the
the
guts.
way that one drink will fuck your sleep completely.
Yeah, it really throws us off.
It's insane,
So
man.
I'm just a really big, I'm a giant advocate for foundation training, and I'm a pretty big advocate for pot.
No,
cannabis.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And like for me, it's stretching.
Yeah.
So like I'll
Oh yeah,
just stretch.
in the zone.
Oh man, the way that you can sit in positions,
Yeah.
the way that you can like get into your breathing,
Yep.
like you just can feel everything's just, you're not in a rush.
Yeah.
You can just lay in these different positions, like, and you feel like you have so much of a connection
Yeah.
to the joint or the muscle that
and,
you're actually
and to the
trying
pain.
to.
So
Yeah.
sometimes, like, it gave me the ability to enjoy
The
the
pain.
sensation of
Yeah,
pain
yeah, yeah.
because it gave me. I was like, there it is. What can I do with it? What does this do? It was like I was all of a sudden doing a test,
Yeah.
and like in the laboratory with my pain. It was wonderful. Instead of just being scared of it and trying to get it away, I was like, I want to understand you.
Well, there's a weird thing with pain, right? So you'd say like, oh, this pain is unbearable. Just to be able to say that means you bore that pain. Like,
True.
so you
Yeah.
were able to bear the unbearable, even if it was for an instant,
Yeah.
to describe its unbearability.
We have a couple of those stupid sayings like, I'm starving. No, you're not. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
just want to
yeah,
eat. But yeah, I hear you on that.
But it's interesting
Yeah.
if you spend some time on that, because it's like I've been bearing this unbearable pain.
Yeah.
So it's like, what?
It's just-
there's something.
you're just fed up.
There's something here, though.
Yeah.
You know, and you've by definition been able to bear it
Yeah.
or eat. Like, how long can you be in this? Like, people.
It's a resilience lesson.
And like you said, people automatically want to recoil from pain.
So-
like, not all pain is something you need to recoil from.
Yeah. I did a TED Talk in 2011, and that TED Talk was all about the unforeseen consequences of technology physically and how technology was kind of converging us physically and compressing us physically. And I basically was saying, like, you don't need to be here. I just lost my train of thought again. Of course, we're talking about pot, and then I lose my train of thought.
Yeah.
It's because I haven't. It's because it's been 3 hours and I haven't eaten enough. But anyways, the idea that, like,
So TED Talk.
yeah, you are. I gave a TED Talk based on the ability to get yourself out of pain. The opening line of it was, I believe each and every one of you has the ability to get yourself out of chronic pain and to feel better than you've ever felt before. And the whole thing was shift autonomy from what you think you can or can't do. Shift autonomy from being dependent on a pain pill. Shift autonomy from being even dependent on your doctor. Pull it inside of you. Learn the skill of pain relief. React to pain better. The way that people react to pain is putting them in much more pain. You're running from it. You're seizing yourself. You're contracting. You're holding. When most chronic pain is just a message that something's going wrong within the body. The body sends a message through pain. Most of those chronic pains, not all, some of them are much more severe. Most of those chronic pains are a musculoskeletal twist that needs to be addressed. And that twist is like the limiting strand, the limiting reaction in your body's being able to move better. But it's the reaction to pain that starts that reaction.
Yeah.
So I want people, like that cramp you felt earlier, I want people to feel themselves in pain, feel themselves increasingly able to shift that sensation until it's literally a skill that they possess.
Well, that's probably a great place to leave this off.
Right on.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Hope the audience has got something out of it. I definitely have.
Cool.
And hopefully next time I see you, I'll be like balls deep and just walking tall, feeling good.
Stronger than ever.
Stronger than
I
ever.
really appreciate this. Like I said, like, thank you for the opportunity to share
No,
foundation
of course,
training.
mate. That's
Yeah.
been awesome. Thank you.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the GYPSY Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. GYPSY Gang.